Chapter 829. On the mountain. As soon as Yu Shernan and the others entered Zhang Feng's living room, they didn't care about the fatally attractive cigarettes anymore. As soon as they sat down, they asked, "Kid, is that person outside the door the Crown Prince of Zhenla?" "Yes, it's him, but now." Hearing this, Ouyang-sun slammed the table and said lightly, "I don't care what business you have, but old man won't allow him to go up the mountain." Zhang Feng's eyes almost popped out. What's wrong with that? Isn't he just a student? He's not a slave or a merchant, he's a proper prince. If we reject him, it'll damage our academy's reputation. Zhang Feng argued. What a joke, with him, Shiva, there wouldn't be anyone on the mountain. It was just an extra pair of chopsticks. The most important thing was that if he could teach him, he would have an inexhaustible little treasury. How could Zhang Feng bear to let this little treasury slip away under his nose? Besides, the other party had already agreed to so many things. If he were to reject them now, wouldn't it mean that everything he said before would be in vain? Wasn't this a joke? Lao Tzu worked for nothing and had to fork out money to play with them? When Lao Tzu ran out of money, wouldn't they just leave? Respected teachers. There's a saying in Confucius and Mencius, there's no distinction between nobility and lowliness, and there's no distinction between learning. Old Man Kong even said that there's no discrimination in education. I've already mentioned this before. Moreover, Li Yuan from White Deer College simply followed Old Man Kong's teachings. I don't know what wrong I've done, but I hope that respected teachers can enlighten me. Ouyang-sun was choked by Zhang Feng and was speechless for a long time. His face was flushed red, obviously angered by Zhang Feng. When Yu Shernan saw this, he quickly patted Ouyang-sun's shoulder and said, "Kid, what you said is right. However, I think you should know what this distinctionless education means. Then let me ask you, do you understand that those who are not of our race have different intentions? It's your business to pass on the knowledge in your head to the students you teach. After all, it's a benefit to the Tang dynasty. We're happy to help you. But now, it's obviously impossible for you to pass it on to outsiders. If you say this in 10 or 20 years, the old man won't even care about you. I believe that even if you don't say it, the emperor will issue such a decree. But not now. Look at your academy." Yu Shernan pointed at the door and said with a serious face, "The academy hasn't even opened yet, and you've already brought in an outsider. What do you think the others in the academy will think? What will happen to the people watching this place? Do you want to bear the crime of betraying the clan?" Zhang Feng's eyelids twitched. How could this have anything to do with betraying the clan? Do you really think that I, Zhang Feng, have never seen the world? This time, Prince Zhenla is here. I don't know what he's here for. He's just here to be a minister. If all the ministers are so stingy, it's really hard for them to be successful. Zhang Feng also understood their thoughts. However, if they were all so selfish, how could the Tang dynasty flourish? Respected teachers, I feel that you're exaggerating a little. Actually, this matter isn't as serious as you've described it to be. Is this not serious? Ouyang-sun's hot temper rose again. He stood up with a swoosh and stared at Zhang Feng. However, Zhang Feng ignored him and said, "Trust me, teacher. Calm down first. Can you let me say 1, 2, 3 and then you can think about it? Trust me. Calm down first. Let's see what this guy has to say. How about it?" Yu Shernan and Sun Simiao hurriedly tried to persuade him as well. A moment later, Ouyang-sun angrily said, "If you want to say it, then say it quickly." Hearing this, Zhang Feng said, "In fact, you should have seen that the Tang dynasty is getting stronger day by day. Previously, countries as strong as the Turks can only play tricks to test the Tang dynasty. And this little one feels that this sort of probing will continue for a very, very long time. Even Tibet has submitted to become a vassal of my great Tang, so what of the surrounding small countries? For example, Goguryeo, Shui, Hui, and so on. For example, it's like a bandit's nest. Does the bandit leader only care about his own pleasure and not? Forget it. I'll change the metaphor." Zhang Feng shrunk his neck under Ouyang-sun's murderous gaze and hurriedly changed the topic. Take a wolf pack, for example. The strength of a wolf pack does not represent the strength of the entire wolf pack. The strength of a wolf pack depends on how the wolf king distributes the food equally. If the wolf king in the wolf pack only cares about itself, then the wolves around it will become fewer and fewer. In the end, it will be the only one left fighting alone. At that time, even if it sees a bountiful prey, no matter how good the hunting opportunity is, it will only sigh. Although the Tang dynasty is strong now, it is still only temporary. The people who rely on the Tang dynasty all hope to be sheltered and learn something. Then, when they become stronger, the Tang dynasty will get more rewards. In this way, a huge net of interests will be formed. Then, who can defeat the Tang dynasty? Chapter 830. Zhang Feng's mouth flew up and down, and Ouyang Sun was really confused. Sometimes he frowned and thought deeply, and sometimes he gasped. Anyway, he felt that something was wrong. Yu Shinan and the others were the same at this time, but they were slightly better than Ouyang Sun. They could feel that Zhang Feng's mouth could even bring the dead back to life. Li Chengqian, who was standing at the door, was deeply shocked at this time. He felt that what Zhang Feng said now was reasonable, but in the end he couldn't help but exclaim, "Fengzi, you are talking about the way to govern a country?" As soon as Li Chengqian's voice sounded, Ouyang Sun was instantly shocked and understood. "Fengzi, is what he said true?" Zhang Feng nodded. "You can say that, but these things are all universal. So, Mr. Xn Ben, do you think what I said is right?" Ouyang Sun's face couldn't help but become serious. "National policy? This is national policy? How does this kid know so much?" Ouyang Sun couldn't help but anxiously walk around in the room, with his hands behind his back. After a while, he asked, "Fengzi, I old man ask you this thing other than here, who else have you told?" Zhang Feng was stunned. "What did you say?" "The national policy you just mentioned? I told you here, and Lao Li and the others also know about it. The matter of the drought in Longyu Road." Li Chengqian interrupted Zhang Feng and said, "Mr. Xn Ben, let me say this. This matter was nothing in their eyes, but in the eyes of these pedantic people, it was the crime of deceiving the emperor. Other than the emperor, who could talk about national policy? The common people were forbidden to talk about court politics. Although Zhang Feng was considered an idle person at this time, if this spread out, it would be terrible. Therefore, Li Chengqian felt that it would be best to use their identities to speak to these pedantic old fogies. When Li Chengqian saw that they didn't speak, he said, "I'm sure you all know about the matter of Longyu Dao. Although His Majesty has indeed implemented the strategy against the Turks and Tibetans, you may not know that this was calculated by Fengzi long before His Majesty came up with a plan. And at that time, I only knew about it from my father and uncles." Yu Shinan added, "That's right, this kid is not simple. The beer you drink and the fine salt you eat are all made by this kid. Do you believe me?" And Old Man also clarified one more thing. Sun Simiao said with a smile, "The bone-strengthening powder, the insecticide powder that smokes the locusts, and the nourishing porridge on the mountain are all made by this guy. Don't say that I made them. I really can't afford to take the blame." Ouyang Sun almost couldn't breathe and fainted. Although he had always heard Yu Shinan talk about this, to be honest, he didn't believe it at all. But now that he heard Zhang Feng talk about national policy again, he was so shocked. After hearing it from others, this kid actually didn't refute. It seemed that these things were all made by this kid. Ouyang Sun quickly gasped for breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, and asked, "Kid, what else haven't you done?" "I have so many things that I haven't done. I'm really afraid that I'll send you away if I say it all at once." Thinking of this, Zhang Feng cupped his hands and said, "Not for the time being. What I want to do most now is to make White Deer College the world's White Deer College. What I said today will be taught in the college in the future, and these things are all in the books I wrote. I know that all of you think that I'm crazy, but I must tell you that I'm not crazy. All of you know just how many people there are in the Great Tang who can read and write. What can these people do? Now the Tang dynasty scholars are gradually rising rapidly, and the number of businessmen coming to the Tang dynasty is gradually increasing. If this goes on, how many people in the Tang dynasty will be able to do business in the long run? How can we maintain the reputation of the Tang dynasty? Do you want others to laugh at the Tang dynasty and say that everyone in the Tang dynasty is a country bumpkin who can't even read a word? Then if that's the case, won't my great Tang really be laughed at by others, and we won't be able to follow Confucius's admonition? If that's the case, what's the difference between us and those who deceive their masters and destroy their ancestors? They didn't think much of it before. But at this time, when Zhang Feng said this, Yu Shinan and the others suddenly changed their expressions and stood up with a swoosh. Seeing this, Zhang Feng quickly said, "Kid, you're doing this for the benefit of the Tang dynasty. Think about it. Why did I spend so much effort and energy to open the college at all costs? Isn't it all for the Tang dynasty? Once the Tang dynasty becomes powerful, who will dare to bully, humiliate, beat, and scold me? But a powerful and famous clan needs to be built up piece by piece. Just like the college outside, if there is no foundation stone, how can a tall building rise from the ground?" Chapter 8:31. Zhang Feng's poisonous chicken soup. It directly poisoned everyone present. However, Zhang Feng still did not give up. If he did not persuade these people at this time and make them feel comfortable, he would have to do it. In the future, these people would have to stand up from time to time and pull him back. Zhang Feng could not help but say again, "Actually, I didn't want to do all this. You don't know, but Li Gan knows. I was originally staying in my small tavern and idling away my days peacefully. But it's all because of that Lao Li. He urged me to become an official all day long. I didn't become an official. Later on, listen to what he said, I need to take the imperial examinations. Only the imperial examinations can lead to an official career. I, Zhang Feng, am so handsome, so cute, so resourceful. Even Zhuge Kongming has to call me master. Why would I need these things? This is nothing. I'll take the examinations. I heard from Lao Li that the emperor said that it was just a formality. But this Lao Li is trying to persuade me to open an academy. This, if it's opened, then so be it. Just as I was about to show off my skills, why are there so many obstructions?" Zhang Feng had not been so happy to show off in a long time. While beating down bitter water, he also scolded the few of them. Moreover, he didn't even use a single vulgar word. How could these people be a match for Zhang Feng? Compared to the people of this era, the people of this era did not know how to lie. It could be said that they had not learned how to lie in a roundabout way like Zhang Feng. Therefore, Zhang Feng succeeded at this time. He successfully forced his poisonous chicken soup of the 21st century down their throats. He successfully made the four great Confucians drunk. At this time, Zhang Feng seemed to be a little unsatisfied. He once again told them about the improvements and the innovative idea of the great harmony of the world. Involuntarily, these people instantly entered a state of confusion and could not extricate themselves. However, when Zhang Feng led the topic to Shiva in a roundabout way, Yu Shinan and the others came to their senses. "That's not right. Kid, don't try to bewitch us. By the way, what do you mean by the great harmony of the world? Stop quarreling. Old man wants to know what the great harmony of the world means." Ouyang Sun waved his hand and shouted loudly, causing everyone to quieten down. He looked at Zhang Feng with an expression that seemed to say that if Zhang Feng didn't explain himself, he wouldn't let this matter rest. Zhang Feng didn't expect that the old man would still be able to understand the crux of the matter. He could not help sighing and said, "The so-called great harmony of the world means, for example, now you want to eat a kind of food from the Western region, such as the fruit of the Western region. This is basically impossible now. But if I tell you that you only need to tell me, there will be dozens of exquisite specialties of the Western region in front of you in an instant, and it won't cost much. Will you believe it? For example, now you are in Chang'an City. If you want to eat food from all over the world, there will be people delivering it to you in an instant. Even if you want to travel around the world, you can basically go to the place you want to go. This is the great harmony of the world." To put it in layman's terms, the great harmony of the world is the Tang dynasty. It has become a situation where everyone knows that when they see a Tang, they will make way for you with great respect and let you pass. This is the great harmony of the world. In fact, Zhang Feng did not say it correctly. To be honest, he really did not know what the great harmony of the world was. He could only give a general idea. Anyway, the general idea was enough. These people could not understand. Sure enough, Zhang Feng's words once again made Ouyang Sun fall into a long contemplation for a long time. Yu Shernan took a deep breath and said with a strange look, "Boy, in the end, you just want to say that you want to accept Shiwa?" More or less. Only by letting more people understand the culture and language of the Tang dynasty, the influence of the Tang dynasty will be more far-reaching. This is a way to have the best of both worlds. Although what you see now is that they have secretly learned the things of the Tang dynasty, their roots are still in our hands. Think about it. 10 years later, all the vassal states around the Tang dynasty will be proud of the Tang dynasty's language, culture, customs, and clothes. Do you think they have secretly learned from us, or what? Silence. Dead silence. Everyone understood. He said a lot. This was the most important part of this sentence. It was just that they could not imagine a bearded Kunlun slave speaking fluent Guanzhong language and wearing the clothes of the Tang dynasty. What was this? What was this? Zhang Feng was right. The goal of these people in their lives was to maximize the spread of what they had learned, so that their ideas could spread. And to what extent did they achieve in hundreds of years? Although Zhang Feng's approach seemed a little exaggerated, if it was really so, wouldn't it be, at this time? The happiest and most excited person was Li Qingqian. His eyes were full of stars as he looked at Zhang Feng. With a voice that only he could hear, he kept repeating this sentence. It's all mine. Chapter 8:32. Although the old man doesn't know what you want to do, the old man wants to see what you'll do in 3 years. Sun Simiao touched his beard and lit a cigarette with trembling hands. He took a puff and said with a smile, "I know why you asked me to come up the mountain. It's not about the pig, nor is it about this pot of nutritious porridge. You want me to teach you my medical skills on the mountain, right?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng was about to say something. Sun Simiao quickly stopped him. "Don't say anything. If you continue, I'll be so excited that I'll sell myself. You're very bad. Let me say it." Sun Simiao sighed. With his hands behind his back and a cigarette in his mouth, he looked at the group of old fellows who were in deep thought and said, "Actually, your medical book is somewhat against common sense. Even if I study it in my lifetime, I won't be able to comprehend it in a short time. So, when you gave me the medical book, you already had a plan, right?" Zhang Feng saw that his plan was seen through and laughed shamelessly. "I didn't expect that even this couldn't escape Dr. Sun's eyes. I'm too stupid." "You're very cunning," Sun Simiao scolded angrily. "The old man has always been upright, but he has been led astray by you. From not having a good appetite to not being able to drink and smoke. If you leave now, the old man won't be able to eat anything else. Forget it, you don't have to ask the old man. I'll stay, but you must remember one thing. As long as I need it, no matter what you're doing, you must teach me, such as experimenting on mice." Zhang Feng saw this and almost hugged Sun Simiao and kissed him. "Okay, as long as you need it, even if it's growing flesh and bones, I can teach it to you. When will you stop bragging? Maybe you'll be a first-class official by now." Sun Simiao was speechless and stared at Zhang Feng. He naturally didn't believe in growing flesh and bones. How could there be such a magical thing in this world? Alright, let's talk about the kid outside first. After Sun Simiao walked around twice, he looked at Li Qingqian and said, "You mean to say that your father agreed to this matter?" After Li Qingqian nodded, Sun Simiao lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he patted Yu Shernan and the others on the shoulder and said, "Old friends, the matter of whether we accept Shiva or not has already been decided." The few of them were stunned upon hearing this. Sun Simiao repeated, "Li Gan's father." Sun Simiao emphasized the word father, and then continued, "If he didn't agree, would the Li family servants at the foot of the mountain let him go up the mountain? You guys are also digging your own horns." Hearing this, they all nodded. Only then did he come to a realization. In his haste, he had neglected such an important matter. Without the emperor's permission, not to mention this kid, even one of them would not be able to go up the mountain from the side of the Chang and military camp. This was all arranged by the emperor. He wanted to see if Zhang Feng would accept it or not. Thinking of this, the few of them sighed deeply. Rubbing their aching foreheads, they gathered together to discuss for a while. Yu Shernan said, "Fengzi, since this matter is decided by you, old man and the others won't say anything. But what you just said, Li Gan, after this matter, wait for me to finish recording it in a book and keep it in the Academy's library." Li Qingqian was dumbfounded. Why was it always him? Zhang Feng had said so much, how could he remember? But since Yu Shernan had spoken, he really did not dare to say anything. He could only say gloomily, "This student understands." Hearing this, Yu Shernan and the others nodded in satisfaction and said, "You can enter the academy, but you can't break the rules. You can't run away from being a slave. Boy, what do you think?" In the end, Yu Shernan looked deeply at Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng also knew that this might be the biggest compromise, but this was not a matter of one's word. He had to ask for the other party's opinion. "I understand, but Shiva is the crown prince after all. I think we should let him make the decision. What do you think?" What a joke. Shiva was a prince. If news of this spread, the Jinla king would be furious. The Jinla royal family would fight Zhang Feng to the death. Zhang Feng did not care whether they agreed or not. He walked straight out of the door and waved at Shiva, who was squatting at the side with absent-minded eyes. After a long while, Shiva finally reacted. After following Zhang Feng into the room, Yu Shernan repeated the matter to Shiva and asked, "Crown Prince Shiva, this is the law of the Tang dynasty. As the crown prince, you should know this, so your decision is?" Shiva was very excited. In fact, he had known about this for a long time. However, ever since he knew that Zhang Feng's son had opened an academy here and created so many good things, his mind was filled with Zhang Feng. He was even willing to be a slave. The main thing was that he could learn something that would allow the people of Jinla to not have a meteoric rise, but at least they would not be bullied by others. At this moment, when he heard Yu Shernan's words, Shiva knelt on the ground with a thud. Student Shiva greets the masters. Yu Shernan and the others were naturally not interested in taking in such a slave. They pointed at Zhang Feng, then rubbed their heads and left. Zhang Feng looked at Shiva and said, "Don't take it to heart. This is only in name. Only then can you stay on the mountain. So, we will do what we are supposed to do. Come Ligon. Give me a cigarette. What are you waiting for?" "No. Teacher, since you have taken me as your disciple and servant, then I, Shiva, will naturally be your servant for life." Chapter 8:33. Finally, this matter was settled. Zhang Feng's mood was very good at this moment. He found Zhu Zi and asked him to bring the smoked meat that had just come out of the pot, as well as a table of good dishes to entertain this rich man. Under Li Qingqian's incredulous gaze, he took out a jar of white wine from his bedroom. "Feng Zi, tell your brother the truth. How much wine do you have left?" Li Qingqian cracked. He stared with a pair of bull eyes and asked. Zhang Feng ignored him and said indifferently, "No more, no more. This is the last jar. I left this for brother Shiva." "All right, why are you standing here? If you have nothing to do, go out and play." Li Qingqian was very angry. But with Shiva here, he did not dare to beat up Zhang Feng. He could only angrily slam the door and leave. When there is time, Lao Tzu will definitely tear down your rotten wooden house. This prince wants to see how much wine you have hidden here. Zhang Feng did not care about this. Now that he finally met a rich man in this period of time, how could he not grab onto his thigh? He laughed and poured a cup of wine for Shiva, then said, "Since we parted last time, we haven't seen each other for 3 months, right? It has been 3 months. I didn't expect so many things to happen in these 3 months. In the blink of an eye, you, a guy from the marketplace, actually became the dean. And I, sigh." Shiva drank 3 cups of wine and could not help but feel a little dizzy. When he thought of the things that happened in these 3 months, he could not help but feel sad. Creak. When the two were drinking cup after cup of wine, Li Qingqian pushed open the door with a strange expression. He looked at Zhang Feng and said, "Feng Zi, an important person is here. Shiva, do you want to leave?" "What? Shiva is now our brother, and also your brother. When have you seen me chasing you away when I have guests?" Li Qingqian's mouth twitched. "Fine, forget it. You're on your own. I have something to do, so I'll go down the mountain first. While talking, Li Chengqian immediately slipped away like there was oil on the soles of his feet. As he walked, he did not forget to say, "Oh right, Iron Bull and the others asked me to tell you that they have also gone to Chang and to look at the white paper business." Who was it that had come? To be able to frighten these masters to this extent? Zhang Feng didn't mind. He continued to eat and drink with Shiva. When Zhang Feng poured a glass of wine for Shiva and gestured for him to drink, he noticed that Shiva was looking at the door in a daze. "I say, Shiva, what are you looking at? What's outside the door?" "Or you?" Before Zhang Feng could finish his sentence, he followed Shiva's gaze and looked at the door. The next moment, Zhang Feng couldn't help but be stunned. He asked an idiotic question. At the door, out of nowhere, a woman wearing a white strapless dress and a fiery red gauze dress had appeared. The woman was very beautiful and charming, the kind that was seductive to the bone. Zhang Feng thought that he had seen many beautiful women. Whether it was the famous female lead of the action movies in the future or something else, he had seen them all. He had even met the #1 beauty in Chang and Jingshu when he came to the Tang dynasty, and that inexplicable fiancé, Zhang Yuyao. Both of them were top beauties, but, at this moment, compared to this woman, there was nothing left of them. The woman's eyes were very big, and the corners of her phoenix eyes were slightly upturned. She had a charm that could devour one's soul. Even Zhang Feng, who had seen many beautiful women, couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Damn, is this a demon? Dodgy? After looking at the woman for 10 seconds, Zhang Feng finally came back to his senses with a gasp. The woman at the door looked at Zhang Feng with a little surprise. Then she bowed and said, "Can I go in and have a drink?" Oh my God! This voice. Zhang Feng instantly felt that the blood in his body was boiling. But soon, Zhang Feng knocked into the oil lamp used to light cigarettes. Only then did he come back to his senses. He coughed and stared at Shiva, who was drooling, and said, "Get out. If you have nothing to do, find something to do." After hurriedly chasing Shiva out, Zhang Feng then welcomed the woman in. When the two of them stood together, Zhang Feng was once again stunned. He was 1.8 meters tall, but there were no high heels in this era. This strange woman was actually the same height as him. Zhang Feng took a deep look at the woman's proud place. Then he obediently retracted his gaze. He poured a glass of wine for the woman and asked, "May I know why you are here?" The moment the question came out, Zhang Feng wanted to slap himself. What an idiotic question. What was wrong with him today? How could he ask such a question? And most importantly, Zhang Feng was shocked to find that his brain short-circuited several times when this woman appeared. Zhang Feng couldn't help but be alarmed. If this woman was sent by someone else to harm him, he would have knelt down by now. Zhang Feng's back was already covered in cold sweat. After taking 2 deep breaths, he returned to normal. As long as he didn't look at her eyes, nothing would happen. What was there to be afraid of? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng then cupped his fist and smiled elegantly. "I haven't asked for your name yet. Sorry for being rude." The woman pursed her lips and smiled. Zhang Feng was so scared that he quickly lowered his head and looked at the wine glass. "My surname is Yu. You can call me Yu." Chapter 834. Yu. What kind of immortal would come up with such a name? Well, the name is really appropriate. Just as Zhang Feng was pondering whether this name had appeared in history, a voice suddenly rang out. At the same time, Yu was also carefully examining her future husband. At first, when she learned about Zhang Feng's talent, she had fantasized about Zhang Feng's appearance. However, the feeling of being past his prime and seeing through the world of mortals in Zhang Feng's poem made Yu think that Zhang Feng should be an old man with white hair and eyebrows. However, when Yu Baolin and his brother brought her here and stood at the door and saw Zhang Feng, Yu's heart never stopped beating wildly. Zhang Feng was very handsome, very handsome. He was not like those burly men, nor was he like those pedantic Confucian scholars, whose eyes were full of greed when they saw her. If it weren't for the fact that her uncle was the world-famous Yu Qigong, she would have been defiled by those men. Fortunately, no one dared to challenge the Yuchi family's authority. Zhang Feng was indeed a little obsessed with her eyes at first. Ever since she became a director, there had never been a man who hadn't been mesmerized by her eyes. However, this Zhang Feng was actually able to recover in the short time it took to drink a cup of tea. Clearly, his heart was very pure. At least in Wuxia's opinion, he was very pure and straightforward at this moment, which was the style of a real man. Once again, a good impression of him arose in her heart. Unconsciously, the corners of Wuxia's mouth curled up slightly into a beautiful smile. Don't you see the water of the yellow river coming from the sky? Masterson, Danqiu, don't stop drinking when you're about to drink. Prince Zhang's poem really makes people yearn for it. I came here from Jiangnan because of this poem, just to see Prince Zhang's real face. Seeing that Wuxia took the initiative to change the topic. Zhang Feng was a little flustered. After all, he was plagiarizing someone else's poem. He did not know how Li Bai would look at him in the future. But F***it, why care so much? Hehehe, it's good that Miss Yu likes it. Alright, do you smoke? Oh, drink, let's drink. Zhang Feng's mouth twitched again. Wuxia pursed her lips into a smile. Looking at the evasive Zhang Feng, she teased, could it be that there's something shameful on Yu's face? Why is Prince Zhang unwilling to even look at you? Zhang Feng's face darkened. Lao Tzu wanted to see it. But you? Isn't this asking for my life? Zhang Feng let out a hollow laugh. Then he forced himself to look at Wuxia and said, Miss Yu, what are you talking about? As he spoke, Zhang Feng stared into Wuxia's eyes for 11 seconds. Then he hurriedly retracted his gaze. Using the excuse of drinking, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, I was rude. This cup of wine is my apology. As he spoke, Zhang Feng raised his head and downed the wine. He pointed at the dishes on the table and said, I heard that Miss Yu came from Jiangnan? Wuxia pursed her lips and smiled. If this little girl said that you came here for young master, would young master believe me? Hee. Zhang Feng let out a hollow laugh. Like hell I'd believe you. But he only dared to say this in his heart. Miss Yu must be joking. What did this little one do to deserve Miss Yu's attention? Just because of young master's 11 poems. Hearing this, Zhang Feng said, those are all trivial things that I made up when I had nothing better to do. Wuxia laughed again. She drank alone and said, then, Prince Zhang, do you know that all the scholars and beauties in Jiangnan are rushing to Chang, and just like you? As for their purpose, young master naturally knows. Along the way, saw that Prince Zhang had single-handedly turned this originally barren Shao Mountain into such a prosperous place. This is truly a blessing for our Tang dynasty. However, why didn't Prince Zhang continue on the path of poetry? Why did he want to open an academy here to teach and educate people instead? On the way up Shao Mountain, Yuqi Baolin and his two brothers had dragged Cheng Chumo and the others to tell Wuxia. They had even dug out what time Zhang Feng went to bed and what size his pants were. All of this had been pulled out from the mouths of Cheng Chumo and the others. Especially after learning about paper and the smelting workshop. Wuxia was even more surprised. When she asked again, she saw that Zhang Feng was somewhat absent-minded and felt that it was a bit rude. She couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. Forgive me for my rudeness. I won't disturb you anymore today. Hopes that Prince Zhang will do me the honor of reciting a poem with you another day. When Zhang Feng heard this, he felt as if he had been pardoned. Miss Yu is too serious. It is this one's fortune to have met such a beautiful person like Miss Yu. As long as Miss Yu thrums, I, Zhang Feng, will naturally sweep the bed to welcome you. Will you? Wuxia covered her mouth and smiled. Her question stumped Zhang Feng. Wuxia stopped teasing Zhang Feng. She bowed slightly and bid him farewell. However, the moment she turned around, a trace of loneliness flashed through her eyes. In the end, it was because of her seductive eyes. Although Zhang Feng hadn't said anything, she had always felt that there was an unseen abyss between them. However, the loneliness in her eyes only appeared for a moment before disappearing without a trace. When she saw the palanquin appear at the mountain entrance, a smile flashed across her lips. Happiness was to be grasped by oneself, not by charity. A long time after Wuxia left, Zhang Feng was still staring at the slowly disappearing palanquin. He went to the kitchen and asked Old He and the others, who were dumbfounded, "Old He, have any of you heard of someone called Yu?" But when he thought of this, Zhang Feng thought of another important matter. He asked fiercely, "Who led her up the mountain?" Chapter 8:35. No one could answer Zhang Feng's question. Because Wuxia had just arrived in Chang and yesterday, and then went directly to Yuchi Mansion. Today, she sat in Yuchi Mansion's sedan chair and went up the mountain. However, when Zhang Feng saw the sedan chair at the mountain gate, Zhuzi said, "Brother Feng Zi, Brother Tainyo and Brother Yulin brought her up the mountain." But it seems that they all know each other, especially Brother Tainyo. The way he looked at the girl just now was like the way a man looks at a prostitute at the gate of a brothel. Zhang Feng heard this and glared at him, "Don't talk nonsense." Zhu Zi shrunk his neck and said with grievance, "This is the truth. You can ask them. They all saw it. And these guys definitely have bad intentions." After taking the girl up the mountain, they ran away as if they were fleeing for their lives. Fleeing for their lives? But Zhang Feng thought about it and really believed it. Yi'er's eyes were really not something an ordinary man could bear. He didn't know what kind of reincarnation of a demon she was. He didn't even remember such a person. It was reasonable to say that such a person should be very famous in history. But now, it seemed that there wasn't even a word or two about her. "Brother Feng Zi, you'd better go back first. Look, Miss Zhang and the old scholar are here." When Zhang Feng was breathing and thinking, Zhu Zi's voice surprised Zhang Feng. He looked at the mountain gate again and saw that the sedan chairs had already come up the mountain. He knew the sedan chairs of Chang and University. Although he didn't know the sedan chairs of Zhang Mansion, he really couldn't find a second one in Chang, in city like Little Chui's emerald green clothes. Seeing this, Zhang Feng's lungs were about to explode with anger. What the hell were these guys doing? Zhang Feng didn't care about anything else. Looking at the rows of carriages and handcarts, his eyelids twitched, and then he hurried to the mountain gate. When Zhang Feng arrived, the carriage had already stopped in front of Zhang Feng's door. Sedan chairs were not allowed on the mountain, but Zhang Feng's house was only a few hundred steps away from the mountain gate. Moreover, the sedan chair the old scholar was sitting in was from Chang and University. Everyone on the mountain knew that Chang and University was also the property of the dean. Naturally, no one dared to block the way. Not to mention the sedan chair of the Zhang Mansion. What a joke! Even little Chui, Miss Zhang's personal maid, had come. What did that mean? That meant that the dean's wife was here as well. They dared to stop anyone, but would they dare to stop the dean's wife? Even if they were given 100 guts, no one would dare to do such a thing. "Old Xiaotsai, why didn't you tell anyone that you were going up the mountain?" When Zhang Feng saw the old elementary scholar get off the carriage from afar, he hurriedly walked over and cupped his fists. The old scholar glanced at Zhang Feng and didn't say anything. Instead, he asked, "What's the matter with that woman who just came down the mountain?" How would Zhang Feng know what was going on? "Well, she's Qing Tinyu's relative. I don't know what she does either. She just came to sit for a while and then left." The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng suspiciously, but didn't say anything in the end. He pointed at the carriage behind them. Then, he went straight to Zhang Feng's small wooden house. Zhang Feng was stunned. He looked at Zhang Yuyao's carriage, which didn't move for a long time, and felt helpless. "You said I was lifting the curtain? It was against the rules. What do you think I should do?" Zhang Feng had no choice but to salute the sedan chair. "I didn't know that Miss Yuyao and Miss Jingshu would be coming. Zhang Feng didn't go out to meet you." Little Chui's small eyes rolled around and looked at the sedan chair with some worry. Then, under her worried eyes, the curtain of the sedan chair was lifted by a slender hand. Needless to say, Zhang Feng knew that this was Jingshu's hand the moment he saw that hand. Zhang Yuyao's hand was fleshy and not so slender. "Jingshu greets Prince Zhang." Jingshu lifted the curtain of the sedan chair and bowed. Then she pulled the red-faced Zhang Yuyao out of the carriage. "Miss Yuyao, are you not feeling well?" Zhang Feng pretended not to understand and asked, "If you're not feeling well, I'll call Dr. Sunday." "No. I'm fine, there's no need, Zhang Yuyao hurriedly said, her face turning even redder. The people around them who were watching the show roared with laughter at this time. Zhang Feng was afraid that these people would talk nonsense, so he glared at them. Only then did they disperse in a hubbub. The few of them entered the small wooden house without saying a word. The old scholar sat in front of the table that had not been removed, his face gloomy. Zhang Yuyao could not help but exclaim, tears in her eyes. As for Jingshu, it was only now that she took off her veil. Although her expression was the same, she was staring at the table in a daze. Zhang Feng was a little embarrassed. Well, don't just stand there. Shiwa, quickly call someone to cancel the banquet and change it to another table. Change to what? The old scholar angrily shouted in a low voice. What kind of principal are you? So wasteful and extravagant. Do you want to spread this kind of atmosphere to everyone on the mountain? Zhang Feng was speechless. Sitting was not right, but standing was not right either. Jingshu was still the one who understood the big picture. Mr. Old Self, why, these dishes are basically untouched, which means that young Master Zhang and that girl only sat for a while. Also, look at this cup of wine. Jingshu pointed to the wine cup that Yuchiyu had just drunk from and said, there's only a little wine stain at the bottom of the cup, and the dishes are still warm. Don't worry about it. It just so happens that I haven't drunk Prince Zhang's white wine in a long time. Today, I'll borrow Prince Zhang's wine to toast you. Chapter 8:36. Zhang Feng was so excited that he wanted to hug Jingshu and kiss her. She was too virtuous. If this was the 21st century, try it. If she didn't cry, make a fuss, and threaten to hang herself, you would be secretly happy. How could you ask her to intercede for you? That was something that he didn't even dare to think about. Zhang Feng couldn't help but love the Tang dynasty. It was a man's heaven. The old scholar and Jingshu had known each other for a long time, so he naturally knew what each of them was thinking. Seeing that Jingshu had taken the initiative to help Zhang Feng out of trouble, the old scholar didn't know what else to say. Forget it, forget it. We've been in a hurry all this time. Yu Yao and Jingshu were in a hurry to pack up early in the morning. It's already noon and we haven't eaten anything. Let's just put up with it. Hearing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly shouted, Shiva, where the hell have you been? Hurry up and ask the servants to serve the food. Are you trying to starve us to death? Shiva wanted to cry. Earlier, he had chased him out, and now he was yelling at him. Didn't they say that they were brothers? Why did he still treat him like a servant? Nevertheless, Shiva still ran to the kitchen eagerly. Only then did Zhang Feng wipe off the sweat on his forehead. He shouted in his heart, damn it, I won't do this kind of thing in the future. Stealing food, I really can't do it. After turning around, Zhang Feng returned to his original state. After rearranging the cups and chopsticks with the others, he asked, this time we're going up the mountain, let's stay for a few more days. Cheng and university should be fine, right? The old scholar drank lightly. The academy is fine, but there's an autumn hunt with the Imperial College. It's an activity organized by the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Appointments. It's going to start in 10 days. This is the first thing we're going to do when we're up the mountain. Our Cheng and university still can't be compared with the Imperial College in terms of reputation and heritage. This time, the Imperial College took the initiative to have a friendly match with Cheng and University. We can't afford to lose. The old man went to look for a Kuju team, but until now, he hasn't found a foreman who is willing to take our place. Kuju. During the Tang dynasty, it had basically formed an industrial chain. Aristocratic families would basically fund a local foreman who specialized in Kuju. When the foreman received the money, he would recruit people who specialized in Kuju to compete with him, regardless of whether he won or lost. Of course, if he won, the aristocratic family would naturally reward him handsomely. However, there weren't many such academy versus academy competitions. Cheng and university was basically filled with those stubborn people from Cheng. It would be strange if anyone was willing to come. If something went wrong, he would lose his life. If he kicked a certain stubborn person, he might even lose his life at night. Who would dare to come? The old elementary scholar could not help but worry. Zhang Feng frowned when he heard this. There are only 10 days left? Why did you only say so now? Jingshu saw the situation and said, originally, Jiang Xuan's mansion agreed, but the foreman disappeared yesterday for some reason in Chang. So, until now, we haven't found anyone who is willing to fight for us. I heard that the foreman and his men are all dead. Who was it? They were targeting him. Zhang Feng didn't even need to think about it. Let me think about it. Let's not talk about it for now. Isn't it just 10 days? After 10 days, I'll form a team. You can do whatever you need to do. At that time, I'd like to see who is the blind person who wants to harm me. Could you have this thing? Wasn't it just football? Although Zhang Feng's football level was similar to that of the national football team, it was different in the Tang dynasty. 10 days was a piece of cake for him. The old elementary scholar seemed to have known that Zhang Feng could handle this matter. Hearing this, he didn't say anything and just focused on eating and drinking. After a while, several bowls of fragrant porridge were placed on the table. The old elementary scholar wrapped the porridge with pieces of fat streaky pork and ate and drank, ignoring Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng smiled and said, "Slow down, old elementary scholar. No one is going to fight with you. I still have things to do." As the old scholar ate and drank, he said, "The second thing is about the cigarettes. It's best to let the people of Zhang Mansion handle it for you. After all, they're family, so don't worry about their safety. As for your brothers, you'd better not mess around with them. That woman just now doesn't look like a good person, so don't mess around with her." What could Zhang Feng say? He could only nod like a chicken pecking rice. Seeing this, the old elementary scholar nodded and wiped his mouth. After drinking the wine in the cup in one gulp, he said, "The third thing this time is also the most important thing. I've talked to your father-in-law. You've seen the dozens of big and small carts outside the door, haven't you?" Zhang Feng was a little confused, but he still nodded. The old elementary scholar continued, "Later, you can ask someone to move them into your house. Just now, I heard that your villa at the foot of the mountain is about to be repaired. Tomorrow, the old village chief will send someone to tidy up and move these things in for you. No, you should at least let me know what's in these boxes, right? These are the soft clothes of Yu Yao and Jingshu. Shouldn't you put them in someone else's house instead of yours?" Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard this. "Wait, old elementary scholar, what do you mean?" The old elementary scholar seemed to still be immersed in Yu Qiu's anger and ignored Zhang Feng. He pointed at Zhang Yuyao and Jingshu and said, "I've brought them here. You don't have any good skills, but your bad habits are increasing day by day. What did you change to when you made a scene in Swallow Descent Tower? There are so many eyes on this mountain watching. Even if you're not embarrassed, I still want to save some face." It just so happens that Jingshu is a sensible person and will help you settle things outside. Yu Yao is meticulous and will wash your clothes and comb your hair every day. Alright, that's all. Old man, I'm leaving. Chapter 837. Zhang Feng was on the verge of breaking down. What kind of show was this? Even if he had made a mistake, shouldn't he at least tell him what he had done wrong? Just because he said no, he threw 2 girls away? Was this appropriate? Was there any justice in this? Zhang Feng hurriedly stopped the old scholar from standing up and asked, "Old scholar, what are you playing at?" "You see, I'm so busy that I can't wait to use one day as 2. And you see, we don't have anything to do with each other. Do you think it's appropriate for us to live together? That's not proper." "You still know it's improper?" The old scholar sat down with a gloomy face. He took a cigarette from Zhang Feng's ear and lit it. He said, "Look at what you've done. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the people on the mountain? Aren't you afraid of being cursed by all the scholars? Now you're the director and a great scholar. You're no longer the carefree person you used to be. Whatever you do, you have to think about the consequences. I won't ask who that girl is, but don't worry. Now you can walk around the mountain and listen. Is this something that a director dares to do? I'm innocent. I'm King innocent. Since when have I been flirting with girls? That's right. Even if I flirt, it doesn't matter, right? What's wrong with a talent matching a beauty? And that girl just now, where the hell did she come from?" Zhang Feng felt wronged in his heart, but he couldn't say it out loud. "Old scholar, If I say that I really don't know what's going on with that girl just now, would you believe me? The old scholar took a puff and glanced at Zhang Feng. It doesn't matter if I believe you or not, but you're now engaged and you fell in love with Jingshu at first sight. I don't care about that, but how do you expect them to live in Chang, and from now on? Originally, I saw that you were alone on the mountain and were instigated to do bad things by your bad friends, so I was wondering if I should let them come up to accompany you. But today, I see that you're living a very good life. In short, do you want them to stay or not? It seemed that the old scholar was really angry. Zhang Feng was also a little nervous. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, he pinched his nose and said, "Then, all right." Seeing Zhang Feng's reluctance, the old scholar didn't bother to say anything more. "I'll go look for Mr. Bosher and the others. I'll come back tomorrow." As he spoke, the old scholar pretended to leave, but when he reached the door, he turned back and said, "You really don't know what happened to that woman." Zhang Feng shrugged. "Do you think I would have this expression if I knew him?" Hearing this, the old scholar's face turned serious. "I'll check it for you. Don't worry about it for now." As he spoke, the old elementary scholar left with a gloomy expression. What the old scholar hated the most in his life were those greedy and extravagant debauches. He was also an extremely pedantic person. Otherwise, he would not have been able to live in his shackles for as long as 10 years. When he was going up the mountain, he heard the people in Tonghui Lane telling him that there was a seductive woman who came up the mountain to look for Zhang Feng. He couldn't help but be furious. But now that he was sure that Zhang Feng did not know this woman, the old scholar became even more worried and angry. Was someone trying to use a honey trap on him? Zhang Feng's current achievements were a stumbling block in the eyes of many people. Many people wanted his life. He knew this. After all, in the previous dynasty, he saw with his own eyes the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui, who was incomparably valiant, but in the end, he fell into the depths of the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui. He didn't want to see Zhang Feng follow in his footsteps. Who on earth was targeting Zhang Feng? After the old scholar left, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became extremely awkward. Jingshu hid her hands in her embroidered robe and Zhang Yuyao lowered her head, like a girl who had done something wrong and was waiting to be reprimanded. Zhang Feng's head was about to explode. Behind Zhang Yuyao, Cui, who was dressed in emerald green, squatted on the ground. Her hand reached out from under Zhang Yuyao's armpit, grabbed a plate of braised meat from the table, and ate it like a cow. Other than the sound of Cui, chewing, the room was strangely quiet. Zhang Feng finally couldn't help but cough and ask, "Well, did Uncle Zhang say anything when you came up the mountain this time?" "Father asked me to serve my husband, Prince Zhang well." Zhang Feng's head exploded when he heard this. She was really planning to settle down on the mountain. Forcing a marriage to this extent was simply unheard of. Would Lao Tzu run away? Zhang Feng looked at Zhang Yuyao painfully, then looked at Jingshu. Jingshu seemed to have sensed it. Without waiting for Zhang Feng to ask, she said, "I didn't have anything to do at the foot of the mountain, so I accompanied Sister Yuyao up the mountain." Sister Yao? Oh my God. Lao Tzu shouldn't have replied to Zhang Yuyao's letter. Back then, I really shouldn't have gone to Swallow Descent Building with those few bastards. Damn it, is this retribution? Is it wrong to be handsome? Chapter 838. Zhang Feng finally managed to escape from the wooden house. He squatted in the kitchen and refused to go out. While smoking, he waited for Cheng Chumo and the others. "Feng Zi, you can't do this. Although you haven't married them yet, Miss Zhang and Miss Jingshu are still your women. Is it appropriate for you to ignore them like this?" "Yes, Feng Zi, if you do this, those old things will scold you again. Go back." Under the persuasion of old He and Jing Tufu, Zhang Feng could only return to the study room. He looked around the wooden house. This was the first house he saw when he first entered Shao Mountain. Zhang Feng was reluctant to tear it down. If he wanted to expand it now, it would be too late. There were only 3 rooms in the wooden house. One was Zhang Feng's bedroom. The other was the room of Chen Tinyu and the others. Now that they had slipped away and found a place to live, it was basically Zhang Feng's material warehouse. The last room was Zhang Feng's secret warehouse. There were 3 locks on the door, and it was guarded by Gao Kansas. Now that Gao Can had slipped away, the house was empty. It was obviously impossible for people to live there. As for Chen Tiniu and the other's house, now it seemed that he could only arrange for the two women to live there. As for the villa, it hadn't been painted yet. How could he live there? Besides, even if he painted it, it would take a month to dry it. Otherwise, he didn't want to suffer from rheumatism so early. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng pointed to the room on the right side of the living room and said, "Little Cui, after eating, go out and ask Old He to find people to move Miss Zhang and the others' things into that room. You can squeeze in there for the time being. Tomorrow I will find people to hurry up and build a house." "Prince Zhang, don't trouble yourself. This place is very good. It's fine as long as we can live here." Zhang Yuyao glanced in the direction of Zhang Feng's finger and hurriedly said. After she finished speaking, she realized that Zhang Feng lived next door. She couldn't help but blush like a red egg. Zhang Feng was bored again. He could only rub his nose embarrassedly and say, "Since that's the case, I have some matters to attend to first. You can leave the matters here to that purple-robed youth." "Prince Zhang, you can leave if you have something to do. We will take care of the matters here." Jing Shu was still so gentle and elegant, but when she walked to the door, Zhang Feng didn't know what to do. Once he went out, they would definitely gossip about him. His head hurt. But on second thought, Zhang Feng instantly figured it out. If the woman wasn't afraid, why would a man like him be afraid? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng was no longer embarrassed. Under Jing Shu's surprised gaze, Zhang Feng coughed and said, "I just had some inspiration now. I'll go inside and think about a new poem. You guys go ahead. If you have nothing to do, you can go to the mountain. After all, this place can be considered half a home in the future." After Zhang Feng finished speaking, he closed the door. Seeing this, Jing Shu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. How could she not see Zhang Feng's embarrassment? But after all, she was more intelligent. With a little thought, she could understand the meaning behind it. "Sister Jing Shu," Jing Shu patted Zhang Yuyao's hand, indicating that she didn't need to worry. Then she walked out of Zhang Feng's study with Zhang Yuyao and said, "Prince Zhang is busy now. We don't want to disturb him." Zhang Yuyao opened her mouth to say something, but after hesitating for a long time, she didn't say anything. She could only sit at the door with Jing Shu and watch the people of Tonghui Square happily fighting to move things for them. At this time, Jing Shu recalled what had just happened. At the beginning, she really didn't want to stay. After all, Zhang Feng was more embarrassed. It could be seen from just now. But she couldn't get that woman's voice out of her mind. This was really what the old scholar said. Zhang Feng's excellence was beyond doubt. She was very clear that outstanding people would never lack women around them. But when Zhang Feng turned around, she saw a trace of concern in Zhang Feng's eyes. This was the reason why Jing Shu chose to stay. After sitting for a while, Steamed Bun came over with a lot of snacks. Jing Shu touched Steamed Bun's head and said, "I heard that Mr. Bo Shi and the others are on the mountain. Let's go and visit them." Hearing this, Zhang Yuyao finally remembered the important matter at hand. She hurriedly rummaged through the chests and cupboards and took out the gifts that she had prepared beforehand. Only then did the four of them slowly walk towards the back of the mountain under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Shiwa was already stunned. No matter if it was the fox-like woman he first saw, or the two now, they were all the best in the world. At least in Jinla, he really couldn't find a woman as beautiful as them. Most importantly, these three women were Zhang Feng's women. This was the most shocking thing for Shiwa. After seeing them leave, Shiwa sighed and looked at Zhang Feng's room. He took out a small book and wrote something on it. Then, his eyes became even more passionate. Is this the attractiveness that the imperial tutor talked about? Brother Zhang is indeed Brother Zhang. If I can stay by his side for a long time, then I can also get this attractiveness. Then, thinking of this, Shiwa squatted in a corner and laughed foolishly. Chapter 839. How was Zhang Feng composing a poem at this moment? He hid at the door and watched Jing Shu leave with some boxes through the crack of the door. Only then did he heave a deep sigh of relief. What kind of sin did he commit? Zhang Feng sighed again. He lit a cigarette and walked to the door. Looking at Shiva, who was laughing foolishly, Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and went back to his room. Then he simply fell asleep. And when Zhang Feng fell asleep, Yi Zichen was stunned. At the foot of the mountain, in an inn with the same name as the Uli Inn in Chang'an City, Cheng Chumo, Li Chengqian, and the others were pacing back and forth anxiously, while Yuchi Baochi was squatting at the door and smoking. His face was blue and purple. Obviously, he had been beaten up. Wei Shuyu and Zhang Sun were playing poker without a care in the world. They didn't even think about what happened to Zhang Feng. As for this, there were naturally people who were worried. After all, they weren't the ones who brought him up. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, there were hurried footsteps on the wooden stairs. Li Qingqian and Cheng Chumo couldn't help but be startled. They hurriedly looked at the door. Seeing the person, Li Qingqian asked, "How's the situation on the mountain? Did a fight break out? Is Fengzi okay?" Seeing this, the person hurriedly said, "Young Master Li, nothing happened on the mountain. That woman has already gone down the mountain. She didn't have any entanglement with Jingshu and the others." Hearing this, Li Chengqian heaved a deep sigh of relief. It was good that nothing happened. If something had happened, it would be a big deal. Thinking of this, Li Chengqian was furious. He kicked Yuchi Baochi hard and said, "It's all your fault. Your father is an old bastard, and you're following him. Who is that?" "That's your aunt. How dare you trick your aunt like this?" "Well, what if it worked? Fengzi isn't married. Besides, which man doesn't have multiple wives? What did I do wrong?" Yuchi Baochi muttered. Li Chengqian became even angrier when he heard this. "Tell me, one is your aunt, the other is Fengzi. How are we going to teach them in the future? What's his name? Your father, that old bastard, didn't think of this. Are you following in his footsteps?" "That's right. Why are you following suit?" Cheng Chumo also took the opportunity to slap him. Li Chengqian was so angry that he pointed at Cheng Chumo's nose and said, "This is all your rotten idea. Don't think that Lao Tzu doesn't know that Yuchi Baochi wouldn't do something like this. Which eye of yours saw me do it?" Cheng Chumo could not take it anymore. Li Chengqian didn't say anything. He only snorted. Cheng Chumo didn't say anything. He knew that it was useless to say anything. "Do you know the consequences if my father finds out about this? Who has old you? Who is Fengzi? If you let someone spread rumors about you, Tainyo, you'll be harming old Yu's family. Do you know that?" Cheng Chumo, Zhang Sun, and the others were shocked when they heard this. It really was like that. Yuchi Gong held an important position, and many people in the imperial court didn't like him. However, he had always been straightforward and didn't have any tricks up his sleeves. This saved the emperor from liking him. If Yuchi Gong married his younger sister to Zhang Feng in the past, it wouldn't be a big deal. Everyone would just chuckle. But now, Fengzi had mastered such important military skills, and he even had amazing methods of training soldiers. At this time, it was hard not to think too much about it. This was what Li Chengqian was most worried about. If someone in the imperial court submitted a memorial, Yuchi Gong would be in danger. Even the emperor wouldn't be able to protect him. At this time, Cheng Chumo also became anxious. Then, what's wrong with men and women getting married when they're of age? Can't Fengzi get married? Uncle Yu isn't wrong. Yes, they aren't wrong, but if you were in the past, no one would be wrong. However, the wrong thing is that the borders are in chaos now, and it's inevitable that there will be unrest in the imperial court. If someone wants to use this against you, then... Cheng Chumo and Yuchi Baochi turned pale with fright when they heard this. Even Wei Shuyu and Yu Baochi's expressions turned serious. "What do we do?" "Then what do we do now?" Li Chengqian pondered for a while, then looked at the gradually darkening sky. He muttered, "Let's go up the mountain. Let's go see how Fengzi is doing with her first." When they heard this, how could they dare to delay? They hurriedly packed up and ran up the mountain. Yuchiyu had left long ago. After all, her identity was special, and the longer she stayed on the mountain, the more rumors there would be. She wasn't a flower vase, so she naturally knew what was going on. Thus, she left as soon as she went down the mountain. This was also what made Li Chengqian and the others anxious. No one knew what had happened in the end, or what they had talked about. To be honest, Li Chengqian and the others had slept with many women, but Yuchiyu's eyes still made them lose their minds the moment they saw them. They were very worried about Zhang Feng's self-control. This kid was still a fledgling. His self-control towards this thing was, they were very nervous. If Zhang Feng couldn't control himself, then it would be a big problem. Previously, Li Chengqian thought that Yu Qigong was just joking about introducing his sister to Zhang Feng. Who would have thought that Yu Qigong was actually serious about it? This was simply, he was playing with fire. Li Chengqian anxiously went up the mountain with Cheng Chumo and the others. At this time, lanterns and bonfires were already lit on the mountain. All the craftsmen and students had entered their own small worlds. Other than the patrolling Imperial Guards disguised as guards, there was basically no one else to be seen. They searched for a while and came to Zhang Feng's door. Looking at the flickering candlelight and Jingshu playing the zither alone in the candlelight, they were troubled. If they went in directly? That wouldn't do. If they waited like this, how long would they have to wait? Li Chengqian couldn't help but kick Cheng Chumo and say, "Go get Feng Zi for me." "I'm not going." "Are you going or not?" Cheng Chumo poked his head out to look at Jingshu in the room, then retracted his head. "I'm not going." "Who's outside?" At this time, Jingshu, who was playing the zither, seemed to be startled by Cheng Chumo's voice. They had no choice but to stand up. "Miss Jingshu, it's me, Li Chengqian." Jingshu was slightly surprised. "So it's young Master Li. It's so late. Are you looking for Prince Zhang? He hasn't gone out since this afternoon. He's composing a poem. When he wakes up, I'll send someone to send you a message." Composing a poem? If this kid wasn't drunk, how could he compose a poem? However, when he stood up, everything in the room entered his eyes. Other than Jingshu, steamed bun and little Cui, were looking at Jingshu playing the zither with their chins in their hands. Only the young lady of the Zhang mansion, Zhang Yuyao, was missing. They couldn't help but be surprised. Could it be that this kid? Just as Li Chengqian cupped his fists and was about to leave, Zhang Feng coughed. "What's the matter?" Seeing Zhang Feng speak, Li Chengqian shouted, "There's a situation in the paper mill at the foot of the mountain. Quickly come out and investigate." "What? Wait, I'm coming now." A moment later, Zhang Feng put on his outer robe and said a few words to Jingshu before leaving the room. After they walked for a while, they stopped at a construction site. Cheng Chumo lay on Zhang Feng's shoulder and sniffed left and right. Zhang Feng was so angry that he wanted to beat him. "Cheng Timiu, are you a F** king dog?" Cheng Chumo smiled and didn't refute. "Feng Zi, you're awesome. How's spring night?" It would have been better if he didn't say it. Once he said it, Zhang Feng instantly became angry. He grabbed Cheng Chumo's collar and punched his fat face. "I'll F** king spring night your uncle. Lao Tzu will beat you to death, you bastard." Chapter 840. After Zhang Feng gave Cheng Chumo a good beating, his anger gradually subsided a lot. Zhang Feng was speechless. Apart from the first punch on Cheng Chumo's face, which had some effect, he didn't seem to hurt Cheng Chumo at all. In the end, Zhang Feng could only give up. He sat on the stone, panting, and asked, "Who on earth was that woman in the afternoon?" How could Cheng Chumo dare to tell him? If he did, wouldn't Fengzi really go crazy? He kicked Yuchi Baochi and said, "Ask him. He knows better than me." Zhang Feng looked at Cheng Chumo suspiciously, but Cheng Chumo didn't dare to tell him. If he did, he might get beaten up. Although he wasn't afraid of Zhang Feng, he was afraid of the 4 Confucians. If those fellows were to find out about this, his father might climb up the mountain to help him loosen his bones before he could even return home. At the thought of this, Cheng Chumo refused to tell him. He kept pointing at Yuchi Baolin. Yuchi Baolin wanted to cry. "If I tell you, can you not beat me up?" Zhang Feng looked over the bonfire. This guy's face was bruised. Obviously, he had been beaten up. He said angrily, "Tell me." "That's my aunt." Zhang Feng was completely stunned. He stared at Yuchi Baochi for a long time before he came to his senses. He asked in a trembling voice, "You say it again. Who is she?" "My aunt. Buzz." Yuchi Gong's big flat face and Yu's peerless beauty instantly appeared in Zhang Feng's mind. Even if the Photoshop guru of the later generation forced him to his death, it would still be difficult for him to Photoshop these two people into the same appearance. How were they similar? Wasn't this a joke? Were they born by their mothers? A fairy and a Xianxia. Oh my god. Was there really such a weirdo? Fengzi, don't think too much. Captain, Yu and Old Yu are distant relatives. As the daughter of Old Yu's distant uncle, she indeed doesn't look like one. But don't worry, I can guarantee that Miss Yu is really only 18 years old this year. Without waiting for Li Chengqian to speak, Zhang Feng waved his hand and moaned, "Don't say anything. Let me digest this." Zhang Feng was completely confused. Didn't he just cheat Old Yu out of a few things? Was it necessary? Who asked him to choke her and lift her collar when they met for the first time? Who wouldn't get angry if they were in his shoes? Last time, he remembered that Old Yu had mentioned this when he was drunk. He had just taken it as a joke. But now, it seemed that this wasn't a joke at all. This was serious. Although Yu, who was indeed very beautiful, Zhang Feng still did not want to die from exhaustion. Under those eyes, Zhang Feng always felt that his brain couldn't turn around. He had no control at all. This made him extremely unhappy. It was far from the peace he felt when he was with Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao. Most importantly, Zhang Feng did not want to provoke such a woman. Such a woman, whether in history or in reality, was an extremely wild character. He had to stay as far away from this kind of person as he could. If he got entangled with her, he wouldn't be able to rest for the rest of his life. Zhang Feng really didn't want to be a bootlicker. Moreover, what about this relationship? Although at this time, Old Yu and Lao Li of Huayu called each other brothers, and so did their son, it didn't matter. If they became even closer, wouldn't it be a mess? From now on, should he call Old Yu brother? Brother-in-law? What about these guys? Zhang Feng instantly had a headache. Damn it, forget it, he'd better take one step at a time. At this time, Zhang Feng really understood why the old scholar was so angry just now. He also felt that the old scholar was so cute. At the critical moment, he sent Zhang Yuyao and Jingshu, the two shields, to the mountain. Otherwise, Zhang Feng really didn't know what would happen tonight. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng trembled a little and lit a cigarette. At the same time, he stared at Yuchi Baochi with great anger. Get down the mountain now. If your father doesn't come and tell me something, we won't see each other for the rest of our lives. Yuchi Baochi was shocked when he heard that. Fengzi, we don't have to do this. This is all my damn father's doing. It has nothing to do with me. Get out. Zhang Feng was extremely irritated. I really don't know what your father is thinking. How could he do such a stupid thing? Is he kidding? Get out, and Tainyo you guys. From now on, until I'm not angry anymore on the mountain. Cheng Chumo and the others stared at Zhang Feng with great fear. Especially after Zhang Feng gasped for breath, they became even more nervous. Fengzi, can you say it all in one breath? Li Chengqian asked with great concern. Zhang Feng really didn't know what to ask these guys to do. It would be embarrassing to dig up feces, but would they obediently carry bricks? After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng finally patted his head and pointed in the direction of the waterfall. I'll give you until the Mid-Autumn Festival. No matter what method you have, under the condition that you don't use the mountain labor, you have to draw water from the waterfall to me. Also, you have to level out a piece of land in the grassland behind the mountain. You have to build a drill ground with cement. Are you crazy? Chapter 841. Zhang Feng didn't care what method these people used. He didn't care about their pleas and slipped away, leaving behind a few people with a headache looking at each other. Brother Qian, what do we do now? Counting the days, there are only 21 days until mid-autumn. How can we draw the water from the waterfall in such a short time? It's impossible. Cheng Chumo complained without tears. Even if thousands of craftsmen across Shao Mountain were mobilized, it would still take 3 miles to reach the mountain gate from the waterfall. Additionally, there was a hollow between the mountain on the other side of the waterfall and the mountain gate. How could they draw the water here? This was simply a fantasy story. And that thatched pond, what could they do after flattening it? Although the thatched swamp was located between their dormitory area and the teaching building, it was not planned to be their living area. Wasn't it Feng Zi who allowed them to keep the thatched swamp? What kind of madness was this? They wanted to flatten it? Although flattening the thatched pond was fine, but the water, It was simply a dream. The most important thing was that this batch wasn't allowed to use the people on the mountain. What should they do? Could it be that they had to go to the barracks to call for reinforcements? I think this is Feng Zi's test for us. At this time, Du Go, who was smoking, said, "Do you guys still remember the water flow principle that Zhang Feng told us before?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Only then did they start to think carefully. But at this time, only Du Go and Li Qingqian could think of something. Other than them, how could they remember these things? They were originally just idling around, waiting for Zhang Feng's military knowledge. As for the things that Zhang Feng was talking about, they had a headache. What air resistance? What water pressure? How could they know what these things were? If they wanted to know, they might as well jump into the water and swim around. Then they would know everything. Li Qingqian looked around and couldn't help but be speechless. Debing, quickly go and wake up Hao Chujun and the others. Tell them to immediately go to our room. Tai Nyo and the others are trash. They won't be able to help at all. Li Qingqian finally slapped his thigh. Since Zhang Feng did not allow them to use the laborers on the mountain, Hao Chujun and the others could not. They were students, and he had a feeling that Zhang Feng was serious this time. If they didn't handle this matter well, their credits for this year would be gone. Du Go did not hesitate and gave Cheng Chumo and the others a kick. The few of them hastily took on the role of lackeys. There was nothing they could do. They really did not understand this stuff. If they were asked to beat someone up or use brute force, they would be able to do it. As for using their brains, forget it. Cheng Chumo and Du Go walked back while pondering about this matter. From the water wheel to the bridge, they had thought about it, but they couldn't complete it within 20 days, not to mention the removal of the large swath of grass. The two of them couldn't help but hold the lantern and silently return to their small wooden hut, quietly waiting. In fact, Zhang Feng had already predicted that these few people would not be able to do it. Returning to the small wooden hut, the joy on his face first made Jingshu surprised. Then she asked, "Prince Zhang, did you think of some evil move again?" "What evil move?" Zhang Feng hurriedly quibbled. Jingshu covered her mouth and laughed. "This matter, it is very obvious that those few people are playing tricks on you. According to your temper in the past, if you don't teach them a lesson, then it would not be Prince Zhang's character." Zhang Feng somewhat embarrassedly looked up and down at Jingshu. It is better for girls not to be too smart, especially not to guess blindly. Otherwise, there will be trouble. Jingshu did not feel embarrassed. She looked at Zhang Feng and smiled. It was as if she was waiting for Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng could only raise his hands in surrender. "I'm going to sleep first. Rest early. I'm waiting for Prince Zhang's poem. I wonder if Prince Zhang has any great works?" What great works could Zhang Feng have? He knew how to plagiarize. Zhang Feng also knew that Jingshu took the initiative to find a topic to get close to him. Zhang Feng could not help but have a bigger headache. He casually thought in his mind and thought of a poem. "Ahem, this poem is a little long. If you want to hear it." "Yes." Zhang Feng wanted to find an excuse to change the date, but Jingshu did not give him a chance. Zhang Feng's face stiffened. Why did the original method not work now? Fine. Then let's have a poem. After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng's mind instantly thought of a poem that suited his mood at this time. He could not help but cough. His face instantly became very solemn and he recited, 10,000 gold goblets of wine, 10,000 jade bowls of shame. Stopping the cup and chopsticks, unable to eat, unsheathing the sword and looking around at a loss. Trying to cross the Yellow River, blocked by ice, trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Fishing in the blue stream, suddenly riding a boat by the sun's edge. The road is difficult. The road is difficult. Many crossroads, where am I today? Sometimes the wind and waves will break, straight up the clouds and sail to the sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't find it alone. After finishing, Zhang Feng saw Jingshu's stunned face. He could not help but endlessly show off. "Ahem, this poem was created on a whim today. Miss Jingshu, go to bed early. I'm going to rest first." After finishing, Zhang Feng directly slipped away. What a joke. This poem was one of the difficulties of the poet Immortal Li Tai Bai. Even if Jingshu was more intelligent than others, it was enough for her to taste. Take your time to think about it. Chapter 842. Jingshu was indeed shocked by Zhang Feng's poem. The perplexity and melancholy expressed in this poem made Jingshu's heart resonate with it. Her life was miserable. As a child, she was sold to an official prostitute. If it wasn't for a female official from the previous dynasty who taught her a set of zither skills, she might have already stepped into the mortal world. How could she get to know Zhang Feng? She always thought that Zhang Feng was a dissolute and unruly talent. But in his poems, there was always a kind of perplexity, which made Jingshu even more confused. Although there was a saying that Zhang Feng's family was suddenly hit by a flash flood and landslide in the Phoenix Ridge, and the whole family was buried in the mud in the mountains, Jingshu didn't believe it. Because what Zhang Feng showed was too shocking. Especially his page of drunken poems. It was simply a shocking work. And Zhang Feng's benevolent government. Wait, which one of these was done by the predecessors? Although Zhang Feng always said that he had a mysterious master, but who was that master? Who could have such great ability? Wild geese still leave traces. What about his master? There was also the complicated relationship between Zhang Feng and Li Shimin and others. Let's not talk about these. Besides, Zhang Feng had innovated too many things. In her opinion, one of them could leave his name in history and make Zhang Feng earn a lot of money. But Zhang Feng was still like a treasure that couldn't be dug out. This made Jingshu worried again. Although Zhang Feng was so happy every time she saw him, but today, in the deep of the moon, Jingshu actually heard the loneliness and melancholy in this poem. Involuntarily, Jingshu's beautiful cheeks slowly glistened with tears. However, at the same time, although this poem was casually recited by Zhang Feng, don't forget that this was the mountain. There would always be some mischievous people on the mountain who wanted to listen to the wall and secretly learn from it. This matter, Zhang Feng and Li Chengqian all knew, but they didn't say anything. Anyway, in Zhang Feng's opinion, these things that could be said out loud were not big things. Once there was a big matter, the door would be closed and everyone would tacitly go far away. There was no other way. If you didn't go, those imperial guards disguised as guards would have to ask you to sleep in the Supreme Court for half a year. But today, Zhang Feng had caused too much of a ruckus. Everyone knew that Zhang Feng's 2 wives had come. Although most of the people were well-behaved and didn't secretly learn from them, there were still some people who curiously came over when they saw Zhang Feng return. Once they came, they couldn't be saved. Originally, they wanted to secretly learn some skills. After all, every time Zhang Feng gave private lessons to Li Chengqian, Hao Chujun, and the others, these students would drool. As time passed, it became a trend to listen to Zhang Feng's private lessons. Once they saw Zhang Feng close the door, they would run as far as they could. Once Zhang Feng didn't close the door, no one would care about you. You can listen if you want. At this time, when Zhang Feng was reciting the poem, coincidentally, there were 3 students who were squatting below Zhang Feng's window. Seeing the 2 people talking, they were wondering if they should leave. Zhang Feng's words made their eyes burst with a flash of ecstasy. President Zhang Feng was going to compose a poem, and it was a poem that took him an entire afternoon to compose. It should be known that Zhang Feng usually didn't compose poems. But once he did, he would open his mouth and compose several poems at once. President Zhang used an entire afternoon to compose these poems. They instantly took out their brushes and ink from their arms in ecstasy. They were so nervous that they were sweating all over. When Zhang Feng's voice faded away, they were dumbfounded. After looking at each other, the 3 of them frantically recorded on the yellow paper, bamboo slips, and even the book covers that they had prepared in advance to secretly learn. It should be known that Zhang Feng had a lot of famous sayings on the mountain now. Each one of them was worth at least 1,000 strings of coins. And they were priceless. Especially the road that no one walked on before became a road after many people walked on it. Because of this one sentence, some people even called out the value of the first 2 pieces of gold, wanting to buy the right to use this word. But, at this time, the eyes of the 3 people couldn't help but turn into copper coins. After they finished recording, they ran away trembling all over as if they had epilepsy. Early the next morning, at the entrance of Yuchi Manor, A person wearing the special servant uniform of White Deer College anxiously knocked on the door. That person knocked on the door. After confirming that the person who came out was the housekeeper, he handed over a slip of paper and then hurriedly disappeared. To be able to become an official in the Yuchi mansion, how could he not have some skills? When he saw that this thing came down from Shao Mountain, he hurriedly sent it to Yuchi Gong's study. But when he heard the clamorous snoring sound, the housekeeper wanted to knock on the door but didn't dare to. He anxiously scratched his ears and cheeks. "Housekeeper, what's the matter?" At this time, Yuchi leisurely came over. Seeing this, the old housekeeper's eyelids twitched. He hurriedly bowed. "There's a letter that came down from Shao Mountain." "But Master, Shao Mountain?" Yuchi's eyelids twitched. Then she smiled and said, "Cousin is resting at the moment. Just give it to me. I'll give it to him later." The housekeeper hesitated for a long time. But in the end, he clenched his teeth and handed it to Yuchi. The matter of Yuchi going up the mountain to meet Zhang Feng, as well as Yuchi Gong wanting to introduce his cousin to Zhang Feng, had long been spread in the manor. So at this time, everyone naturally treated Yuchi as a member of Shao Mountain. It wasn't excessive to give it to her. After the housekeeper left, Yuchi lightly knocked on the door a few times. A moment later, Madame Yuchi yawned and opened the door. When she saw Yuchi standing at the door, she couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "You? What are you doing so early in the morning?" "Madam, this is a letter from Shao Mountain. I saw that the housekeeper didn't dare to knock on the door, so I did it on his behalf." Yuchi pursed her lips and smiled. Madame Yuchi waved her hand. "I was wondering what it was. That dead man is sleeping so deeply that even 8 horses can't pull him awake. Let's take a look first. If there's something urgent, we'll wake him up." Hearing this, Yuchi's eyes flashed. She supported Madame Yuchi into Yuchi Gong's study. Yuchi didn't shy away. In front of Madame Yuchi, she opened the letter. There were only a few short lines. But the moment she saw these lines, Yuchi's expression changed greatly. Chapter 843. Reporting. "Your Majesty, urgent report." Li Shimin, who had just walked out of the court, had not yet entered the imperial study to review the memorials when he heard a hurried report at the door of Taiji Palace. Li Shimin frowned slightly, but when he saw the symbolic clothing of Mount Shao on that person, he waved his hand, "Go in and talk." As soon as he entered the imperial study, Li Shimin looked at the person who opened the door and asked with a solemn expression, "What's the matter?" "There's a letter from Mount Shao. It's Prince Zhang who did something big last night." "Oh." When Li Shimin heard this, he couldn't help but be interested. After waving his hand to signal Xiao Gizi to read it, he slowly sat on the soft couch, smoking and drinking tea in a very comfortable manner. Xiao Gizi took the letter and opened it. He, who had always been serious and did not have a trace of change in his expression, could not help but be moved at this time. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Golden wine and wine bowl for 10,000, jade plate for shame straight to 10,000. Stop cup and chopsticks can't eat, draw sword and look around at heart at a loss." And on the other side, in Wei Zheng's residence, Wei Zheng slowly looked at the note in his hand with a stunned expression, muttering, "Trying to cross the Yellow River, the river is blocked by ice. Trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Come fishing on the blue stream, suddenly ride a boat to dream of the sun. The road is difficult. The road is difficult. Many paths, where are you today?" In Li Yuan's bedroom. At this time, Li Yuan's originally hazy sleepiness was instantly read by the female official kneeling in front of the bed. He did not completely wake up. "There will be times when the wind and waves will break, directly hang the clouds sail to the vast sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't get it alone." Is this really that kid's poem?" Li Yuan asked in surprise. The female official trembled all over and hurriedly said, "This was passed down by the Jinwu guards of Mount Shao, it can't be fake. Go down, investigate again." Li Yuan waved his hand and dismissed the servants. He took the note from the concubine's hand. The more he looked at it, the happier he was. Li Shimin, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others saw the poem almost at the same time. They also knew about this poem. Basically, everyone who knew about it knew about it. After all, if their son could go up the mountain, there would definitely be personal guards following him. It wasn't surprising that he was able to obtain such information. Almost at the same time, they frowned and looked in the direction of Shao Mountain asking, "What is that kid doing? Why does this poem make me feel so uncomfortable?" How could the servant who delivered the letter know about this? However, when they learned that Yu Qigong had introduced his cousin to Zhang Feng, they were shocked. At almost the same time, they immediately thought of the Taiji Palace. They all headed towards Li Shimin's imperial study room. Li Shimin also said, "Little Gizi, quickly summon the dukes. Especially that old man Yuchi. As long as he's not dead, you have to carry him here even if you have to." Seeing this, little Gizi's face twitched. Yes. Zhang Feng, this kid, had always been cheerful and carefree. These two women couldn't arouse his interest. At this time, giving him another one, wouldn't that be asking for his life? However, this kid didn't seem to be someone who couldn't control himself when he saw a woman, right? Otherwise, wouldn't that Jingshu have been taken in by him long ago? Could it be that there was something different about this Yuchiyu? Otherwise, why would that kid's mentality collapse? Li Shimin couldn't help but ask curiously, "That's right, let that old man Yuchi bring Yuchiyu. We want to see who exactly this Yuchiyu is." Little Gizi was stunned when he heard this. "Your Majesty, if Yuchiyu doesn't have status, she can't enter. Just say that we summon her." Little Gizi shrank his neck when he heard this, then hurriedly retreated. On the other side, Yu Qigong was woken up in a daze by the woman's needles. He was about to get angry, but Madame Yuchi threw the slip of paper in her hand at Yu Qigong's face and said, "This is your fault, so do as you see fit." Just now, the servants reported that Wei Zheng and the other old fellows have received it. They're all running around the palace, and you're still trying to wake me up like a corpse? Another 2 hours and you'll really be a corpse. Yu Qigong was shocked when he heard this. He hurriedly looked at the paper, but there was no rush. After carefully reading it, he was so shocked that his forehead was covered in sweat. He wanted to curse. However, he couldn't curse in front of Yuchiyu. If it weren't for this damned woman's incitement, this wouldn't have happened. He originally thought that with Zhang Feng's thick nerves, there wouldn't be a problem. Great, now the matter had blown up. How could Yu Qigong dare to sleep? He hurriedly got up and shouted as he crawled, "Old Ding, quickly prepare the carriage. Lao Tzu wants to enter the palace." As he put on his boots, Yu Qigong glanced at Yuchiyu. Yuchiyu was as calm as usual, as if this matter wasn't caused by her. Yu Qigong couldn't help but wonder if he had done the right thing. However, it was useless to say that now. As he ran outside, he pointed at Yuchiyu and said, "You follow me into the palace." "Don't you think this matter has blown up?" Madame Yuchi wanted to scold him, but Yu Qigong retorted, "If she doesn't go, Lao Tzu will really be in big trouble. If His Majesty takes a look at you, this matter might really work." There was such a thing? Madame Yuchi and Yuchiyu were both shocked. "Let's go, Grand Aunt. If we don't go now, none of us will have to go." Chapter 844. 2 hours later. In the imperial study, Li Yuan calmly sits on the side of the dragon throne, sitting together with Li Shimin. In the imperial study, Wei Zheng and the others are also whispering something, sometimes excited, sometimes serious. "Your Majesty, the Duke of Yi requests an audience." "Summon him." Li Shimin doesn't even think about it, directly waving his hand. Soon after, Yu Qigong carefully walks into the imperial study with his big belly. As soon as he enters, Li Shimin coldly snorts and says, "Yu Qigong, do you know your crime?" Yu Qigong is shocked when he hears this. "Your Majesty, this old general doesn't know what crime I have committed." "What crime?" Li Yuan interrupts Li Shimin, slightly narrowing his eyes and asks, "You introduced your sister to that kid, what are your intentions?" Li Shimin rolls his eyes, wanting to say something, but after glancing at Yu Qigong, he finally crosses his arms and watches a good show. Qing Yaojin and the others are the same at this time, smoking while lowering their heads and frowning, as if thinking about something important. After a hurried glance, Yu Qigong's heart thumps, hurriedly saying, replying to retired emperor, This was a joke this old official played with Zhang Feng. You also know that I am henpecked. These things were all done by my fierce wife. It has nothing to do with this old official. Li Yuan smiles slightly, without a trace of change in expression. I know what you're capable of, but if you hadn't told anyone about this, your wife would have found out. We know your wife's temperament very well. Without your approval, would Wuxia have been able to ascend the mountain? Don't think I don't know what you are planning. If you marry that kid, won't your Wuxia family be able to achieve meteoric success? I don't care about this. I believe that the emperor is too lazy to care. After all, you are the duke, you have to think about me and the emperor. You want to push the emperor and me to the tip of the blade, to block the blade for the rise of your Wuxia family? Gong's face changes when he hears this. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Retired emperor, this official has been wronged. I just saw that the kid was lonely on the mountain. Moreover, that kid is impetuous. I cherish talent. You also know the ability that kid has. If everyone were to guard him, there would be trouble. That girl of mine..." "Shut up." Li Yuan frowned slightly. "You're quite thoughtful. Do you think that His Majesty and I haven't made any arrangements? Do I need you to worry about this? Does His Majesty and I have to thank you?" Gong was shocked and quickly shut his mouth. "Father." Seeing this, Li Shimin hurriedly called for a halt. "Imperial father, although the Duke of Yi was rather impetuous in this matter, he did mention something that reminded us. You also know that some time ago, that brat discovered something called immortal ointment. We already had people experiment with it in the death row prison. That thing is truly harmful to people. If you eat it, you will be neither human nor ghost. For such a thing to suddenly appear in Shao Mountain is truly not a normal matter. The Duke of Yi is in charge of the safety of Shao Mountain, so it's only right for him to think about Zhang Feng. It's just that he didn't think about everything." Li Yuan coldly snorted. But he could only ask, "Then what does your Majesty plan to do? If possible, how about we introduce one of your imperial sisters to Fengzi? You can issue an imperial edict." When Li Shimin heard this, he became even more ridiculous. His face darkened. He remained silent. Li Shimin also wanted to, but there was no suitable candidate. They were either too young or already married. Otherwise, why would Li Shimin go through so much trouble? So he tacitly approved and even secretly urged on Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao. If Li Shimin wanted to interfere, he could do so with a single word, but he did not. However, this Gong was indeed a little impetuous. Although he had good intentions, forget it. That kid should be the one to make the decision. We still think that we should let that kid make the decision. As for what the outcome will be, we will only know in the future. Your Majesty, if that's the case, how will you deal with those court officials? Li Yuan could not help but feel slightly dissatisfied. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let that Wuxia come in first. We are very curious. Even Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao could not touch that kid. Just what kind of ability does this Wuxia have?" Seeing this, Gong was overjoyed and hurriedly urged Little Gizi. After Little Gizi waited for Li Shimin to nod, he lazily roared, "Summon Wuxia for an audience." Your Majesty, do you think that this Wuxia and the Duke of Yi are cousins? Then don't the two of them look very similar? Li Yuan quietly teased, but his voice was not so low. Li Shimin's expression also froze. Could it be that because she was too ugly, that kid, that's right. Gong was so big and burly. How beautiful could his cousin be? Could it be, while Li Yuan and Li Shimin were making blind guesses, the powdered Wuxia gracefully walked into the imperial study. Instantly, Li Shimin and Li Yuan's eyes froze. Wuxia pays respects to your Majesty, pays respects to retired emperor. The crisp and deeply enchanting voice caused Qing Yaojin and the others to suddenly look towards the door. But in the next moment, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Especially after seeing Wuxia's eyes. Cough cough, beloved official Cheng, look at you, pay attention to your appearance. Chapter 845. Those eyes. No wonder Zhang Feng was flustered. Even Li Shimin and the others, who had seen countless people and created people as powerful as mountains in their hearts, were deeply stunned when they saw her today. She was a demon. Even Li Yuan. At this time, he was also somewhat emotional. But when he thought that she was that boy's woman, he could only sigh. He scolded Qing Yaojin and the others, who were staring. Then he waved his hand and said, "You are Wuxia? Get up and raise your head." Wuxia raised her head. Li Yuan and Li Shimin's brows raised slightly. Even if they already paid attention to their image, they were still somewhat shocked in their hearts. But there was not a trace of expression on their faces. This involuntarily made Wuxia's eyes flash with a trace of disappointment. This trace of disappointment was deeply grasped by Li Yuan. He frowned slightly and said, "Yesterday on the mountain, you saw that boy. What is your impression of him?" Without waiting for Wuxia to speak, Li Yuan said again, "We and the emperor will not interfere in this matter. As for whether that boy Zhang Feng accepts you or not, that will depend on your own ability. But you should be a smart person. Don't use small tricks. It will only increase Zhang Feng's disgust. That's enough, you can leave now." Li Yuan's words involuntarily made Li Shimin, Wei Jing, and the others shocked in their hearts. At the same time, they also carefully savored Li Yuan's words. At the same time, their backs could not help but exude cold sweat. This woman was not simple. Wuxia withdraws. Wuxia naturally finally panicked at this time. Just now, she clearly hid that trace of disappointment in her heart very well, but it was still seen by Li Yuan, this old fox. What did this mean? Could it be Wuxia walked out of the imperial study in confusion, but did not plan to leave? However, who was little Gizi? Early on, he sent 2 little eunuchs and 2 palace maids to follow behind her and keep an eye on her. This woman was not simple. Otherwise, the retired emperor would not be angry. Who was Li Yuan? The women around him were as many as the hairs on an ox. What kind of woman had he not seen? What kind of woman had he not tried to figure out? With just one sentence from Li Yuan, sometimes these eunuchs and palace maids could instantly understand a lot of things. After all, they were making a living in the palace. If they did not try to figure out their master's temperament, that would simply be courting death. Wuxia aside for now. The atmosphere in the imperial study was heavy and strange. Li Yuan and Li Shimin whispered to each other for a while. Li Shimin's face also sank slightly. Then, he gave Wuxia a meaningful look and said indifferently, "This emperor and the retired emperor will not care about this. Like I said before, Duke of Yi, you should take care of yourself. This emperor advises you that you should let this matter develop. All right, all of you are dismissed for now. As for this matter, if anyone asks, just say that Wuxia admired Zhang Feng's literary talent and the reputation of Daoshan Academy, and that's why she went up the mountain to pay a visit to the 4 great Confucians. After that, don't mention this matter again." When they heard this, they knew what Li Shimin meant. They stood up and bowed. "We understand. All right, all of you are dismissed." After everyone left, Li Shimin asked, "Father, do you mean that this Wuxia's thoughts are not pure?" Li Yuan nodded. "Send someone to Jiangnan to investigate, and you will know that this woman's thoughts are very heavy. Perhaps she is greedy. However, this woman's eyes are not a kind person. Moreover, we should take one step at a time. That boy should not be a kind person either. For the time being, let's not worry about it. However, it is enough to send someone to secretly keep an eye on this woman." When Li Shimin heard this, his heart sank slightly. "Then, if by any chance, father," Li Yuan narrowed his eyes and drew a line under his neck with his right hand. "For the sake of that boy, if it really comes to that step, then so be it. However, this emperor really wants these 2 to succeed. If they succeed, then it will be wonderful. You know that boy Zhang Feng's temper, and this woman, these 2 are like needles. This emperor really wants to see what kind of tricks they will play when they combine like this." "Haha." Li Yuan laughed loudly and walked away. After Li Shimin pondered for a moment, he smiled and lit a cigarette. He no longer cared about this matter. Instead, he carefully admired Zhang Feng's new poem again. Little Gizi, brush and ink. Although the thing was good, it was written on a small piece of paper. Li Shimin could not help but feel pity for it. Then, his poetic interest was greatly aroused. After dipping the brush in ink, he brewed this poem on the white paper like a dragon and snake. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes and copied this poem. Good poem. Before this, I really didn't see anything wrong with this poem. However, now that your majesty wrote it like this, a feeling of overlooking the common people suddenly appeared on the paper. When little Gizi saw this, he exclaimed. Li Shimin touched his chin and had people raise it up. After looking at it from afar, he could not help but laugh loudly. It's not that this emperor wrote it well, but Zhang Feng's poem is originally very good. Little Gizi, tell me, what's so good about this poem? Li Shimin put down the brush and ink, then lit a cigarette and asked. Little Gizi bent over and looked at it carefully, then said, It's good in the momentum of this poem. Tell me about it. When little Gizi heard this, he quickly knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, please forgive this servant's sin first. Oh, okay, I forgive your sin. Hearing this, little Gizi said, This poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Although everything seems to be developing well, there are wolves around the Tang dynasty. In fact, the Tang dynasty is like a trapped beast, so this servant thinks that the meaning of this poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Chapter 846. The smile on Li Shimin's face disappeared. It was just as little Gizi had said. The Tang dynasty was not peaceful now. Although everything seemed fine on the inside, only a few people knew that the three great powers were still three mountains weighing down on the Great Tang. Although one of them was in imminent danger, it had yet to topple. As for the Shandong aristocrats, they would have to wait for the imperial examination held in Zhang Feng's academy 3 years later to decide. Originally, the imperial examination system was held once every 3 years. According to the plan, there would be an imperial examination this year. However, too many things had happened in the past few years. Later, Zhang Feng suddenly appeared. Li Shimin had to grit his teeth and cancel this year's imperial examination on the grounds of the disaster this year. Wasn't this why Li Shimin was confused? The more he read the poem, the more shocked Li Shimin became. Little Gizi, come and look. This poem, Li Shimin called him and then shook his head. Forget it. You can leave now. I need to be alone. On the other side, in a tea house in Chang'an City. At this moment, Blind Sun appeared in front of everyone's expectant eyes again. But he slammed the gavel. All the people in the tea house instantly focused their eyes on him. Even the people on the second floor, because of the paper buy incident, did not dare to treat Blind Sun as an ordinary person anymore. After Blind Sun heard the silence in the hall, he slowly took a sip of tea and slowly said, Today, we will still talk about the matter of Mount E. Hearing Mount Shao, everyone was instantly interested. Blind Sun, isn't Mount Shao the White Deer College? Did the college produce something good again? A young man in a green robe on the second floor cupped his hands and asked. Hearing this, Blind Sun cupped his hands and said to the second floor, Child Zhou, you must have heard of the name Zhang Feng, right? The young man in the green robe nodded. Yes, I have heard of him. This person, good. Blind Sun interrupted him, but young Master Zhou didn't even dare to fart. That Zhang Feng is the disciple of an extraordinary person. But today, let's not talk about his legend, and how he managed to turn those stubborn disciples into obedient grandsons. Let's talk about his talent. Talent. Although this person heard that the 4 great Confucians jointly recommended him to be the great Confucian, it has never been confirmed. Now, the 4 great Confucians have all run to the mountain and don't show their faces. Even the medicine god Sun Simiao has stayed on the mountain and doesn't come down. Everyone was still curious. This Blind Sun actually wanted to talk about it. Everyone couldn't help but become even more curious. This Prince Zhang Feng. Let's not talk about anything else. Just based on his talent, I'm sure everyone can recognize a few of his poems. For example, I'm sure everyone has heard of that poem, right? Hearing this, everyone could not help but nod. That's right, this poem is indeed shocking. However, this has nothing to do with talent, right? Haha. Blind Sun stroked his beard and laughed loudly. Then he suddenly shouted, Who said that? In an instant, the entire tea house suddenly became quiet. Whether a person is talented or not, let's not talk about other aspects first. A poem is enough to represent everything about this person. As he spoke, Blind Sun picked up the wine pot on the table and poured a cup of wine. He raised the cup and stood up. Then he shouted loudly, "Don't you see, the water of the yellow river comes from the sky and flows to the sea, never to return. Don't you see, the bright mirror grieves white hair. Like black silk in the morning, like snow in the evening." After this poem, the entire tea house became silent. Even the scholars, and dignitaries on the second floor instantly became quiet. Everyone was trying to figure out the artistic conception of this poem. After Blind Sun's shout, everyone's hearts instantly surged. After a long while, Blind Sun still minded his own business and continued to drink his wine. On the third floor, a faint female voice sounded again. "Well said. Men, reward Prince Zhang's white wine." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. White wine? What kind of wine is this? Under everyone's expectant gazes, a maidservant carried a white porcelain wine pot to a platform between the first and second floor. This was also the place where Blind Sun always told stories. Blind Sun cupped his fists towards the third floor. "Thank you, shopkeeper." Then, under everyone's gaze, he slowly poured a cup of wine. In an instant, the fragrance of the white wine filled everyone's hearts. Blind Sun sniffed and then praised, "Good wine." After drinking it in one gulp, Blind Sun's face instantly turned as red as blood. This scene shocked everyone. However, under everyone's gazes, Blind Sun placed his hand on his chest for a moment before taking a deep breath. "Good wine, good wine." No wonder young Master Zhang was able to compose such a beautiful poem. I'm afraid that the wine is the most important thing. As expected of Prince Zhang, who was given the title of Wine Immortal by the 4 great scholars. Wine Immortal? Zhang Feng's title was Wine Immortal? This everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Smelling the wine in the air and recalling the poem that Blind Sun had just recited, everyone's mind couldn't help but spin. Those who could become saints and immortals, which one of them didn't have the ability to transcend the heavens and the earth? This Zhang Feng was only in his early 20s. How could he be called Wine Immortal? However, Blind Sun didn't say too much. Instead, he talked about Zhang Feng again. Just last night, Wine Immortal Prince Zhang created a masterpiece in Shao Mountain. At this moment, the emperor, the retired emperor, and even a few dukes in the imperial palace were alarmed. Chapter 847. On the mountain. When the gong sounded, it was time to open the gates. Zhang Feng slowly got out of bed. As soon as he went out and was about to call Shiva, Zhang Yuyao and Xiao Chui had already placed the copper basin on the table and were taking a nap. Seeing Zhang Feng come out, Xiao Chui quickly picked up the copper basin. "Young master." Zhang Feng was stunned. "How long have you been waiting here?" Zhang Yuyao's cheeks were red. "Not long. Not long, just 3 envoys." Before Zhang Yuyao could finish, Jingshu's faint voice sounded from another room. Zhang Feng took a look. He didn't know when, but Jingshu was actually sitting in his confidential information room, flipping through an ancient book. Hearing this, Zhang Feng's head almost exploded. However, Zhang Feng thought about it again. "I didn't ask you to wait. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time." Thinking of this, Zhang Feng shamelessly pointed at the sink at the side and said, "Don't worry." As expected, Xiao Chui obediently brought the copper basin to the basin and even handed Zhang Feng's towel to Zhang Yuyao. Zhang Feng didn't say anything. He calmly sat in front of the basin. Xiao Chui washed Zhang Feng's face, while Zhang Yuyao combed Zhang Feng's hair with a red face and a racing heart. After a while, Zhang Feng was like a puppet. Under Zhang Yuyao's torment, he looked brand new. However, when Zhang Feng saw what he was wearing in the copper mirror, he didn't feel good. There was nothing wrong with the crown. Pure gold embedded with gems. But what was the meaning of this green robe? "Yao, this?" Zhang Feng pointed to the green robe on his body and asked. "That was knitted by Sister Yuyao in the past month. The thread is also from the mulberry silkworms that Sister Yuyao raised personally." "Sister Jingshu, that's enough." Zhang Yuyao hurriedly interrupted Jingshu, but Zhang Feng understood everything. He wanted to take it off, but how could he do it now? How would he dare to take it off? Rubbing his nose, Zhang Feng calmly patted Zhang Yuyao's shoulder. Revealing a smile that he thought was charming, he said, "Thank you for your hard work. I like this robe very much." When Zhang Yuyao heard this, she lowered her head and blushed like an egg. Zhang Feng couldn't help but crack. He hurriedly found an excuse and said, "Oh right, it's time to eat. Clean up and let's eat. Miss Jingshu, it's time to eat. Shiva, where's my food? Where the hell did you go?" "She's here." In an instant, Shiva, who had been standing outside the door for a long time, walked into the room awkwardly. He didn't even dare to raise his head as he hurriedly placed the food box on the table and slipped away. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was stunned. Jingshu placed the ancient book in her hand on the bookshelf and looked at Zhang Feng with a smile. "Prince Zhang doesn't have to be like this. But you're really Frank." "Frank Myas." Zhang Feng was embarrassed. He was angry and embarrassed. He didn't explain and sat down. He stared at Cui Er as she placed the exquisite dishes on the table. He waved his hand and said, "Let's eat." After hurriedly eating a few mouthfuls of food, Zhang Feng finally found an excuse and said, "I still have something to do at the foot of the mountain. I'll go first. You guys eat slowly." After saying this, he ran away as if he was fleeing from a disaster. When Zhang Feng left the room, he sighed in relief. However, when he looked at his toad-like green robe, Zhang Feng had the urge to beat someone up. Before this, he was still laughing at Cui Er's green robe. Now, in the blink of an eye, could it be that Zhang Yuyao likes green that much? No, I have to educate her. While thinking, Zhang Feng wandered around the mountain gate. At this moment, Uncle He came to Zhang Feng with a strange expression and said, "Feng Zi, come here." "What's wrong?" However, Uncle He didn't say anything. He pointed to the back of the kitchen. Zhang Feng saw Li Chengqian and the others waving at him. Since he wasn't full just now, Zhang Feng didn't care about it. However, when Zhang Feng entered the kitchen, Uncle He immediately drove everyone out. However, Zhang Feng didn't notice. He picked up the bowl of porridge that was prepared for him and gulped it down in one gulp. "Feng Zi, you're really famous now. Do you know?" Zhang Feng was a little confused. However, when he thought of he seemed to understand something. He lazily agreed and then asked while eating, "Oh, and then?" "And then?" "And then you ask." Li Chengqian smiled and said, "What did you do last night?" "Last night? Wasn't it yesterday afternoon?" "Nothing. What else can I do except sleep? I mean except sleep." Hearing that, Zhang Feng put down his bowl and chopsticks. He looked at Cheng Chumo and the others with a strange expression and asked, "Tell me clearly. Did I really go back to sleep last night after I finished talking with you? What else can I do except sleep?" Zhang Feng was a little impatient. Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't seem to know, Li Chengqian got close to Zhang Feng and asked, "Did you compose a poem last night?" Zhang Feng thought for a while. He did compose a poem. He nodded and asked, "You did? What's wrong? Where's the original work? Show it to us." Zhang Feng was even more confused. "Yesterday, I just casually told Jingshu a poem and then went to sleep. I don't have any original work. If you want an original work, write it yourself and stamp it with my seal. It's an original work." Hearing Zhang Feng's words, Li Chengqian and the others couldn't help but look serious. They said, "Feng, are you sure you didn't write it last night? I wrote your grandma's leg. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hold it in. It's uncomfortable." Seeing that Zhang Feng was angry, Li Chengqian lit a cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. He said, "Since you didn't write it but today, your poem has been spread all over Chang'an City. You're famous." "I'm famous?" Zhang Feng was stunned. He pointed to his nose and asked, "Is there an immortal? Lao Tzu just said it casually. How did it spread to Chang'an City?" "Because you've been eavesdropped." Chapter 848. Had he been eavesdropped on? Zhang Feng's hair stood on end when he heard this. Ooh, which bastard dared to eavesdrop on Lao Tzu? There were 3 kinds of people that Zhang Feng hated the most in his life. The first kind was gossiping. If Zhang Feng encountered this, he would be beaten up in the future. However, if he was in the Tang dynasty, he would definitely cut off that person's tongue. The second kind was those who secretly agreed but secretly disobeyed and betrayed. However, Zhang Feng hated this kind of eavesdroppers the most. They were the most detestable kind. There was no privacy at all. How could he play? This time, Zhang Feng unexpectedly became famous because of this eavesdropper. Li Qingqian saw this and said, "It's 3 students. They are now kneeling in front of Mr. Bo Shi's door as punishment." Students? What's the point of keeping such students? Throw them off the mountain and don't let them take a step up the mountain for the rest of their lives. Zhang Feng was also furious. Li Qingqian saw this and sighed slightly. "This is all your fault." Zhang Feng pointed at his nose and laughed angrily. "Good fellow, how can you blame this on me? Yes, these students came up the mountain to study. Look at them during this time. These people are working as coolies. Do you think they can be balanced? And the most important thing is that you taught us alone during this time. This makes people jealous. You have a big mouth. From time to time, you would come up with amazing famous sayings. This made the students on the mountain even more restless. Other than when you closed the door, under normal circumstances, there are people squatting outside your door at all times, waiting for your famous sayings." Hearing this, Zhang Feng's hair stood on end. Was there still privacy? Was there still human rights? Zhang Feng stared at Li Qingqian and said, "Don't you have servants on the mountain? Could it be that these servants were all incompetent? Don't they care about this?" Li Qingqian spread his hands. "They didn't do anything shameful. Besides, this kind of thing doesn't violate the Academy's rules. You didn't change the Academy's rules. Other than craftsmen, students are generally allowed to move freely at night." So, Li Qingqian shrugged. This kind of thing he really couldn't care less. There had never been such a law in the Tang dynasty. This was a moral issue and could only be strictly educated. If there were any serious consequences, the government would take action. Zhang Feng was so angry that his whole body trembled. "Big flat cake, remember this. Tomorrow, we'll make the rules now. You'll be in charge. Carve it on the gate at the foot of the mountain." "All right," Du Go said indifferently. Then, he took out the brush and ink that he always carried with him and unfolded it. "Students are not allowed to eavesdrop. Those who are caught will have their legs broken and will never be allowed to enter any place under my name for the rest of their lives. Students are not allowed to gossip, not allowed." Zhang Feng listed 9 of the Academy's commandments in one breath, and the eavesdropper was the first one. It could be seen that Zhang Feng was really angry. This was also the reason why they waited here alone for Zhang Feng. Most importantly, these people had been idle for too long. No one could sit still if they did these things all day long. The key was that Zhang Feng treated them differently. How could they be willing? That would be the real deal. Li Qingqian stared at Zhang Feng until his anger subsided. Then he asked, "Fengzi, when do you plan to start teaching these people officially? If you don't teach them now, they will go crazy." This was a big problem. Zhang Feng heard this and his anger subsided a lot. After a moment of silence, he said, "How long will it take for the Academy's construction to be completed?" "I'm talking about the Academy's classes." "Half a month. At the earliest, it will be half a month." Li Qingqian made a conservative estimate. "Half a month." Zhang Feng touched his chin and thought for a while. "Half a month it is. I'll go look for Mr. Bo Shi later. Tomorrow, we'll hold a general meeting of the Academy. The day after tomorrow, we'll select those who you think are outstanding and start the formal teaching." "Differential treatment? You're still here?" Wei Shuyu and the others couldn't help but frown and look at Li Qingqian. Li Qingqian didn't know what Zhang Feng was thinking. Seeing this, he could only say, "Fengzi, this matter, I think. Don't you think it's good? I want what I think." Zhang Feng interrupted Li Qingqian and said, "Look at the current situation in the world. People are divided into different classes. Why can't my academy do the same? Although I've said before that everyone here is equal, there are always a few shining stars among them. These are the people we need to focus on nurturing. This way, everyone in the academy will have a sense of crisis and a spirit of improvement. If thousands of people were to be educated fairly, would you be the one to teach them? Or let Mr. Bo Shi and the others do it? It'll be a wonder if they don't die of exhaustion. Li Chengqian was speechless. Zhang Feng's words made sense. However, the current situation was that most of the construction on the mountain was basically completed, but those who came from Chang and the surrounding areas were still unwilling to leave the mountain. On the one hand, it was because they could fill their stomachs here. On the other hand, Zhang Feng's charm made these people reluctant to leave. That was why the current situation was created. There were more people and less work. Once this person was free, it would be a big deal. Zhang Feng also thought of this point. You guys go and look for Mr. Gan. If possible, leave all the things in the academy to the students. As for the people on the mountain, leave the necessary ones. The rest will go and build the rubber factory, as well as the textile factory, the smelting factory, and the paper factory. As for the food factory, don't touch it for the time being. Hearing this, Li Qingxian's face finally burst with a hint of ecstasy. Zhang Feng was finally going to be serious. Chapter 849. After finishing the conversation with Cheng Chumo and the others, Zhang Feng left. However, Li Chengqian and the others also successfully removed the task that Zhang Feng gave them. Last night they thought for a long time. If they were to draw water from the waterfall, it was almost impossible to accomplish. Now that such a thing had happened, Zhang Feng was not in the mood to teach them what was called the wind-water method. After all, if these students who had nothing better to do were not taught well, then everything they did before would be in vain. This was the biggest problem. When Zhang Feng arrived, Yu Shinan and the others burst into laughter in Li Yuan's bamboo house. The most important thing was that they seemed to still be discussing Zhang Feng's new poem. At the door, 3 young men wearing linen shirts were standing neatly at the door, reciting the Tao Te Ching over and over again. Zhang Feng did not care about anything, directly shouting outside the door, "Student Zhang Feng greets several teachers." When the few people heard this, they suddenly burst into laughter again. You see, we were just talking about this kid, and he came. Come in, the door is not locked. When Zhang Feng saw this, he pushed open the door. As soon as he entered the room, he saw that on the screen in the middle of the room, there was a piece of writing that had just been done. The ink had not yet dried. This was the poem that Zhang Feng made last night. Yu Shinan pointed to the poem on the screen and said, "This was written by you last night?" "Yes, I said it last night, but I did not write it." When he heard this, he asked, "Then how did the people in Chang'an know now this was also done by you?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng poured out his grievances. "Wronged, this student is wronged. This is all because of those damn people spreading false information. Yes, it was the 3 bastards outside the door who eavesdropped and spread it out." When Yu Shinan heard this, he pointed to a futon below, motioning Zhang Feng to sit down, then he said, "Now, your poem is completely popular. Last night, these 3 boys relied on your poem to earn 3 beggars' chicken and 10 pounds of braised meat. Do you know? My poem is so worthless?" Zhang Feng's eyes instantly became round. When Yu Shinan saw this, he laughed and scolded, "So, you think the poem was sold cheap? This was spread from their hands. Do you know how much the second hand earned? How much? 300,000 strings. H dash." Even if Zhang Feng had a hunch, he was still shocked by this number. Which nouveau riche wanted to buy this? "Come to me. I don't want more. Even if you give me 100,000, I can make 180 poems for you in one night. Don't be so greedy. Do you think this is a good thing?" When Ouyang Sun saw this, he glared at Zhang Feng and scolded him. In an instant, Zhang Feng immediately put away the greed on his face. "This student understands." Ouyang Sun nodded, "But your poem is excellent. As for the matter of you, we don't care. You just need to pay attention to the influence. But old man and others give you a piece of advice: stay away from this person, or you won't even know how you died." This woman was so awesome? Zhang Feng didn't know how to ask, so he just nodded. That's enough. There must be a reason for him to come here. Boy, the old scholar just went to the waterfall. You call him and we'll discuss the friendly match between Chang and University and the Imperial College. Zhang Feng behaved like an obedient child. As soon as he went out, he saw the 3 people at the door and waved his hand, "Go and call the old scholar for me." Then Zhang Feng directly went back to the small bamboo house, regardless of whether they were willing or not. The few of them acted as if they didn't see him. They sipped their tea as they surrounded the piece of calligraphy and commented on it. After a while, the old scholar hurried into the bamboo house. At this time, they sat down reluctantly. After sitting down, Yu Shinan looked at the old scholar and said, "Brother Zihuai, you should tell us about the situation at the foot of the mountain." The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng and said, "I have told Fengzi about the situation at the foot of the mountain yesterday. The current situation is that we can either form our own Kuju team or change the method. Brother Boji and I have discussed it in Chang and University. If it doesn't work, we can use Fengzi's military knowledge. Aren't old Yu and the others training now? When the time comes, we can call people from their place and win for sure." Yu Shinan and the others stopped smiling and stroked their beards. After a while, Ouyang Sun said, "Although it seems like there is no problem, military knowledge still belongs to generals and is biased towards our academy. Therefore, the old man thinks that it is better to have a Kuju team. What do you think? Didn't you just compose a poem last night? We are all Confucian scholars. Why don't we compete in poetry? I think so. His talent in poetry is unparalleled. Moreover, if we can win the Imperial College, Chang, and University, and our White Deer College's reputation will soar again." The few of them discussed heatedly. On the contrary, Zhang Feng felt that he had come to the wrong place. "Once you've discussed this matter, just let me know and it'll be fine. Do you want me to sit here and listen to you argue? Do you have to?" Chapter 850. The discussion was lively and lively. He had even made proper arrangements for the aftermath of the victory. Zhang Feng finally couldn't listen to it anymore. He asked weakly, "May I ask, respected teachers, do you only need me for this friendly competition?" This question was out of the question. Everyone's fantasies were instantly shattered. After exchanging glances with each other, they coughed and returned to their seats. "By the way, Fengzi, why didn't you mention this earlier? Why don't you tell me your thoughts?" Yu Shinan pretended as if nothing had happened and asked while sipping his tea. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and said, "I will listen to the arrangements of my respected teachers." The old scholar frowned slightly when he heard this. "Tell me, if poetry is not good enough, you can only participate in the mid-autumn hunt by playing Kuju. However, this mid-autumn hunt is significant. If we lose, Chang and University will forever be inferior to Imperial College in Chang." Zhang Feng heard this and couldn't help but ask, "What if we don't participate in the mid-autumn hunt?" "Don't participate? This is organized by the Imperial College. It is held twice a year. If we don't participate, we won't have the chance to participate in the Imperial examination after graduation. Do you think we can refuse?" The old scholar explained to Zhang Feng in detail. Finally, Zhang Feng recalled the origin of the mid-autumn hunt in his mind. He couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. The students made it clear that the Imperial College wanted to intimidate Chang and University. What were they doing? This was a slap in the face. Once Chang and University lost, White Deer College's reputation would also be damaged. Now, Zhang Feng could only participate in the competition. However, he couldn't even find a Kuju team. What could he do? "Are you sure you can't find a Kuju team now?" Zhang Feng asked again. "If I can find one, why would I come to you?" Zhang Feng couldn't help but rub his chin. This time, the Imperial College was obviously targeting Zhang Feng. After all, Zhang Feng had been in the limelight recently. Why couldn't the Kuju team find him? Not necessarily. "Why don't we form our own Kuju team?" Zhang Feng said indifferently. But the moment he said that, Yu Shinan instantly extinguished his thoughts. "No, Kuju is just a form of entertainment. Moreover, it costs a lot of money and time. White Deer College is going to open in less than a month. Where would we find the time? Besides, the mid-autumn hunt is only 10 days away. Once the mid-autumn hunt ends, it will be the mid-autumn hunt poetry meet. Others may have the time, but where would you find the time?" Zhang Feng shrugged. then there's nothing I can do. It was really impossible to form a team in 10 days. Not to mention other things, he had seen Kuju in the Tang dynasty. It was simply a group fight. How was it football? They couldn't help but fall into deep thought again. But they were also annoyed. They just looked at Zhang Feng without saying a word. Zhang Feng couldn't sit still anymore. Why are you looking at me? Why are we looking at you? Yu Shernan glanced at Zhang Feng. Chang, and university is yours. This White Deer College is also yours. Now that we're helping you think of a solution, you're just sitting there pretending to be a master? No. I'm innocent. I'm really innocent. You and the other teachers can help me. Why do I need to say anything? Zhang Feng complained. But would Yu Shernan let him go? In the end, the old scholar coughed. All right, we're already so old. Fengzi, tell us your opinion. After all, you have a lot of practical ideas. Zhang Feng lowered his head. He lit a cigarette and said, Actually, I do have a solution. Old elementary scholar, let me ask you, this hunt is compulsory, isn't it? The old scholar nodded. Zhang Feng asked again, if I don't choose Kuju or other sports, can I choose other sports? The old scholar couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. You can, but you have to report it in advance. If the Imperial College accepts it, then the Ministry of Works will naturally allow it. Hearing the old scholar's words, Zhang Feng's mood instantly calmed down. If that was the case, then it would be easy. He had no way of starting a football team, but he did have a way to teach his younger brother how to play basketball within 10 days. And this included making a basketball. Now that he had rubber, it wouldn't be difficult to make a basketball. As long as he handed it over to Arcanon, it would be a piece of cake. In that case, even if there were only 8 days left, he could train him in a short time. The most important thing was that there was no such thing in the Tang dynasty. That was why Zhang Feng was confident that he could start a basketball team in such a short time. After 3 days of training, even a fool would know how to throw a ball into a basket. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng blew out a smoke ring and said, If that's the case, I do have a plan. I don't know if it will work. Tell me about it. The old scholar didn't dare to trust Zhang Feng too much. This kid was born in the year of the donkey. If he didn't pay attention, he would cause big trouble. Chapter 851. Yu Shernan and the others did the same. Seeing this, Zhang Feng sighed inwardly that he had met the wrong person. He then said, Actually, this matter is very simple. My former teacher once told me about something called basketball. This thing, wait, what did you say? Basketball? What's that? Zhang Feng had a headache. How should he explain to these people what basketball was? He thought about it and said, It's not easy for me to explain it to you now. However, if you believe me, Chang and University will definitely win this mid-autumn hunt. That's enough. How about it? They looked at each other. In the end, it was Ouyang Sun who made the final conclusion. We don't care what you're up to. However, we have to check it out in 5 days. Otherwise, we won't be confident. Zhang Feng shook his head. Okay, then in 5 days I'll invite you all down the mountain to watch a basketball game. However, I have a problem now. I hope you can help me. The biggest problem was solved. Yu Shernan laughed and scolded, I knew you wouldn't come here for no reason. Tell me, is it because of these 3 students who were eavesdropping on you? Zhang Feng nodded, and then said with deep hatred, There are only 3 types of people who are the most ruthless in a student's life. The first type is those who specialize in stealing from others, and the second type is those who talk nonsense behind others' backs. That is the kind of people who are lazy and only talk nonsense. Therefore, I have just set 13 academy precepts. Later, Du Dabing will bring it over for all of you to review and revise. As for these people, I think it's best to expel them from the mountain. Ouyang Sun frowned slightly. Isn't that a bad idea? White Deer College's reputation has just been established. If we expel them now, it will damage the reputation of the college. No! Zhang Feng shook his head decisively. These black sheep should be alerted to the fact that White Deer College provides free education. However, it doesn't mean that the college will accept anyone. Therefore, this student believes that it's best to expel him from this place. Zhang Feng's words were so convincing. The few of them didn't say anything. In the end, the old scholar asked worriedly, "What is the purpose of this? You couldn't have chased him down the mountain out of anger, could you?" Hearing this, Yu Shernan and the others couldn't help but look at Zhang Feng. Last night, they didn't need to think to know what Zhang Feng was doing in the room. They were all experienced people, so how could they not know? However, these few unlucky fellows just had to pretend at this time. Not only did they bump into Zhang Feng, but they also read out Zhang Feng's poem. This was the most important thing. Otherwise, if it was in the past, the commotion caused at this time would have made this brat laugh until his mouth was about to reach his ears. How could he fly into a rage out of humiliation? "No, I've thought about this for a long time." Zhang Feng shook his head. Currently, the construction of the college is about to be completed. With less work to do, these people have more ideas. Therefore, there are more people who have crooked thoughts. Therefore, it's time to rectify the atmosphere. Otherwise, they will really think that White Deer College has no rules at all. How can we manage them in the future? Yu Shernan praised as he stroked his beard. "You finally remembered what you wanted to do. I thought you would need some time to remember what you were doing." Zhang Feng's face stiffened. "I didn't think of this before. I'm so busy." "Busy?" Ouyang Sun laughed. "I think you're not doing your job properly. Moreover, don't think that old man doesn't know that you've selected some people. This is the most important thing. You ignored the thousands of students on the mountain and went to take care of those little fellows. It would be strange if nothing happened. The students only know that the consequences are serious now. To be honest, it's too late. Unless you treat everyone equally. Isn't the purpose of your school to treat everyone equally? Why, now you know the difference in treatment." How could Zhang Feng not know that Ouyang Sun was mocking him? He had indeed said such things before. However, when did this happen? Zhang Feng simply repeated what he had said to Li Chengqian and the others, especially the key point of why there was such a difference in treatment. "Kid, the reason for the difference in treatment is mainly because there are too many monks on the mountain and not enough gruel. There are thousands of students, but there are only 4 of you as teachers. Even with me, it's not enough." "So?" Yu Shernan nodded and asked. Zhang Feng continued, "So my idea is to first select a few outstanding people from these people and undergo the first step of training. Then, let these people lead the next batch of people, and then the next batch of people will lead the new people. In this way, the old students can also review the old and learn new things, and the teachers and the others can also relax a little. Otherwise, the academy won't be able to operate normally in the future." This was Zhang Feng's further improvement of the class division system in the Tang dynasty. It was also called the batch system. It was easy to run an academy, but it was inevitable that there would be some people with a foundation among these people. If they were put together, would they be taught how to read? Or what to teach them? Neither side was willing to do so. Therefore, in the end, Zhang Feng could only come up with such a clever idea. After the establishment of Chang and University, Zhang Feng once talked about the 6 principles. However, because of the establishment of the Science and Technology Department, he put this matter aside. Now that he mentioned it, the old scholars suddenly understood and said, "That's right. Feng Zi once said this set of principles when he first opened Chang and University. Brother Bashi, think about it carefully. I once said it." Yu Shernan and the others couldn't help but frown slightly. "Are you talking about that?" Chapter 852. The old scholar nodded and said, "Yes, it's the class system I told you about before. But later, this kid basically didn't care about Chang and University anymore. Besides, Brother Boji also resigned from the position of Crown Prince's master and came to Chang and University, so I didn't mention it. If Fengzi didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it." Hearing that, it took Yu Shernan and the others a long time before they finally remembered what the old scholar had told them in his letter. They frowned again and pondered for a long time. Yu Shernan smiled and said, "Old guys, this kid dislikes us for eating on the mountain and not working." Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard that. He was wronged. This was a great injustice. "Master, you must be joking. Even if you ask me to serve you for a lifetime, it would be my honor." "Come on, we're just kidding." Chu Suiliang looked at Zhang Feng with a smile and said, "However, you brat, are you really planning to raise us like pigs? If we don't do something when we're provided with good food and drink every day, won't we be sneered at by others? Alright, leave the matters on the mountain to us. As for the later matters, such as the printing of books, you don't have to worry about them. We'll naturally look for you when we need you. For the time being, you just have to settle the matters of the autumn hunt." Zhang Feng heard that and breathed a deep sigh of relief. "I understand. Well, since things are clear, kid, send a jar of white wine here. Let's discuss this matter carefully." "There's no white wine." Zhang Feng waved his hand repeatedly. "You still want to lie to us? If Brother Zihuai didn't come yesterday, you were going to eat it alone?" Zhang Feng shouted that he was wronged. But it didn't help. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded. "Okay. Then I'll leave first." While speaking, Zhang Feng left in a huff. After Zhang Feng left, Chu Suiliang held his big belly and said, "I told you this kid was hiding something, right? You don't believe me? Haha, this brat is really crafty." The old scholar opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. After the few of them joked around for a while, Yu Shernan said with a serious expression, "Everyone, now that you know the situation on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain, it is not reliable. However, there are some good people in charge of external affairs, so the rest will have to depend on the few of us for the time being. I think that we should get those few brats to come over first and start teaching from tomorrow onwards. It's okay to teach, but the key is how to teach. The new building of the academy is not ready yet. We can't teach in the open air, right?" Seeing this, they couldn't help but put away the smiles on their faces, and their expressions became serious. "If it doesn't work, we really need to teach in the wild. Otherwise, there won't be anything to do on the mountain. Once people are free, they will stir up trouble. Once they stir up trouble, the mountain will be in chaos. Once chaos happens, things will happen." Ouyang Sun frowned and continued, "However, it's also okay to teach in the wild. After all, Confucius used to teach outside often. If you don't have any objections, old man will send someone to pass on the message now. Tomorrow morning will it officially start? Wait a moment." Chu Suiliang waved his hand and said, "Teaching is teaching, but where and how to teach needs to be decided first. Brother Zihuai, don't just sit there. Tell us about the teaching philosophy of Chang and University, and we can discuss going down the mountain to report the situation." Hearing this, the old scholar raised his eyelids and said, "Fengzi, I leave the things on the mountain to you. Of course, I have no right to say anything." Hearing this, Yu Shernan laughed and said, "Look, Brother Zihuai is crying out for that brat. Come on, Brother Zihuai, we were just joking with that brat. You took it seriously? Really? Let's drop this matter for now. Let's talk about this matter first. What do you think?" Teaching was a matter of great importance. Once there was a problem, it would be a big problem. In this way, although the teaching did not pay attention to bathing and burning incense, the basic ceremony was still necessary. But at this time, everything in the academy was not ready, so it was useless to say more. This was the biggest problem. Although the old scholar was dissatisfied with their approach, he also knew the importance of this matter. He could not help stroking his beard and thinking for a while, then slowly said, "I just saw the waterfall. It's a good place. The meaning of the jujube tree is good, and the gurgling water is quite poetic. In ancient times, Confucius and Meng taught under the jujube tree. Today, the four great Confucians will teach under the jujube tree." Yu Shernan and the others at this time looked a little confused. In their inherent thinking, didn't the teaching need to be in a clean room? Now, what kind of teaching was this? Sun Simiao, who had been speaking up for them, said faintly, "In fact, you all pay too much attention to things that look good on the outside. An old farmer in the field teaching a skill to a young child is also teaching. A cook chopping firewood and carrying water in the kitchen is also teaching a skill. An old cow plowing the land and following the calves is also teaching. Why should we care about appearances?" Hearing this, Yu Shernan and the others could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Sun Simiao reminded them in an instant. Involuntarily, Jekka nodded with some guilt and said, "Brother Sun is right. We pay too much attention to these things of Suhua. Let's go, old guys. Since we became great Confucians, we have been away for a long time.